The year is 1982. Jim Henson has come off of decades of deliciously fun, colorful, wonderful Muppet projects. People expect Jim Henson to be somebody who's making somewhat family related material, things that are very bright and colorful and very much like for the family. People were shocked in 1982 when a specific project by Jim Henson hit the airwaves. A dark kind of movie, maybe ones would say. A Skeksis movie, some people would say. We on A Muppet Moment podcast are talking about 1982's The Dark Crystal. It is your host, Max, Muppet Man Max, Will Mupdates, and our very special guest.
Hello, I'm Shelby of Weirdpuppetgirl.
Yeah!
Woo!
Woo! Welcome back, everyone.
Good. Welcome back. Thank you, Max, for this has happened a couple episodes now. I've asked just before we have recorded, hey Max, do you want to take the intro? I will have absolutely no way of preparing what they come out with. I get no warning. I get no like sense of what's coming, and it was the same with with the zombie apocalypse episode we did as well. Max just like has some kind of script loaded in their head that we will just not know how to deal with until it hits us. That was wonderful. I believe
Who
you.
up Gelfling de Skeksis right now?
Oh goodness gracious me. I believe you might have
Hey.
created a new adjective, Skexisy. What is? Okay, give us a sense of what when you describe something as Skexisy. What does that entail?
I'm so glad you've asked. So Skeksis to me is like, I'm a little bit scheming and I'm gonna wear some very nice robes and I'm gonna eat food like nom, 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 and I'm also gonna be evil and yes, that's Skexising.
Hmm.
And when I'm gelfling my Skeksis, you get what I'm saying. She
With
gelf on my what till I Skeksis, huh?
Huh?
who up who up Gelfling their Skeksis. Oh my God, what a way to
Welcome.
begin. Thank you everybody for joining us, whether reluctantly or or not. Um, this is an episode that we have wanted to do for a hot minute, to be honest. We are very excited that we were able to make it happen because we kind of made a pact with ourselves that we weren't gonna do it without our wonderful Shelby here. So how about you, Shelby? And now that we're at the top of the episode, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us and the world a little bit about yourself.
What does Weird
Oh.
Puppet Girl do in the Weird Puppet Girl world?
Well, lots of weird puppet things, as weird puppet girls do. Seriously, thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be on the Crystal episode. Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's like Jim Henson's emo phase, and I love that for him.
Mm.
So dark and brooding, and you can tell he was just locked up in a corner somewhere with Brian Froud, like rocking back and forth. The podlings, the
Yes.
podlings.
Skeksis.
Oh my goodness. Well, what an episode to have somebody like you on, Shelby. Because honestly, you've kind of set the tone really brilliantly. Obviously, this is called a Muppet Moment, and there is an important distinction that we have to make. We're going to bring out like the diagram or something. This is not a Muppet movie. This is a Jim Henson creature feature, and there is a massively important distinction that has caused semantic arguments across the Muppet community for eons.
This
Um,
is a creature shop movie. As like I think a lot of the times with the discussion in between like whether or not something is a Muppet or a Henson thing, I think it gets so lost in the sense that, dude, we're talking about like Henson shit most of the time. Oh, is Sesame Street? They're not Muppets. They're not on the Muppet Show. They all got touched by the Henson spell, okay? And Dark Crystal is no different. It's the way Shelby just described it as Jim Henson's emo phase, I would 100% agree with that articulation. Because as I said in the intro, what we had was decades of Henson, starting as somebody in local television, and then going into advertising, and then the Muppet characters appearing on Sesame Street, and then the Muppet Show, and all of these very bright, happy things. Henson was known as like the person making joyful magic, like somebody bringing this joy and whimsy to the world. It was a what I understand, since I was not born in 1982, people were fucking shocked when Jim Henson came out with the Dark Crystal. It was supposedly such a controversial movie at the time and a very divisive movie because most people went into this expecting Jim Henson Muppet fun silliness and left Skexising and gelflinging and being like, "What the hell is a Skeksis?"
It's such an interesting piece because I have a little bit of context that I'd like to give about the Dark Crystal. So forgive me a small ramble, but I have a
Please.
fun little factoid about the Dark Crystal and specifically its relationship to the Muppets. So, like, in order to understand this movie and one of the driving creative forces behind it, Jim Henson, there's a kind of image that exists in a lot of people's mind of Jim Henson, and it is not an incorrect one because for a lot of people it was sort of like this sort of almost paternal figure, this sort of wholesome father of creativity and of joy and of magic, the sort of the father of the Muppets, this just sort of like warm, benevolent man. There's something that needs to be understood about Jim Henson to like understand how the Dark Crystal came to be. He was a weird little freak. He
This is
he
a weird son of a bitch.
he was a strange and peculiar little man, and I personally wouldn't have him any other way.
True.
He was desperate to make his weird little freak movie for such a long time. But obviously because he had such like a precedent set for him now doing like Sesame Street and the Muppets, all of his advertising work, it's like you're the guy who brings us the whimsical joy of silly puppetry. Um, and after the success of the Muppet movie, he was like, well, I feel like I've proven myself like theatrically as a moneymaker. I want to make my weird little freak movie.
Yeah.
And I don't remember which studio it was. It must have been MGM or Universal, whoever distributed the original Muppet movies. He was like, "Hey, you guys like the Muppet movie? I would like to make my strange, peculiar little weirdo movie, if that's okay with you. Coming to you with my hand with my little hands out like this, saying, please give me the money to make my little weirdo movie." And they were like, "Okay, well, you make a good point, but." Arguably, we would like to spend the money on another Muppet movie, perhaps. And he was like, I mean, if I have to, but like if it does well, you have to let me make my little weirdo movie if that's allowed, please. And they were like, we'll think about it. And so what was born of that was the Great Muppet Caper.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
And
indeed.
the little factoid that I have actually relates to a different Henson that is not Jim, who we've actually all met at different occasions. Brian Henson, who
I met Ryan.
we have all met, this
I met
diva,
Ryan with Will
on the same day even.
on the same day. Isn't that crazy?
Last like around this time last year, Max and I got to attend the tour of the Jim Henson lot. Excuse me. Well, excuse me, heavens, at the Jim Henson lot in LA, and we got to have a little talk with Brian Henson in his office. And the interesting little factoid that he gave us was that Jim essentially was sort of given the ultimatum, give us a successful Muppet movie and you can have Dark Crystal, you strange little man. And so he made Great Muppet Caper, and they had the original clapperboards for from several like original Muppet productions in Brian's office, and one of them being Great Muppet Caper, which showed that the movie was completed in 876 shots, which is a staggering amount of shots, especially considering the amount of puppets that are at play. So 876 shots to make a Great Muppet Caper. They were like, okay, thank you for the movie. It did really well. And he was like, can I be strange and off-putting now? Please, for the love of God. And they were like, fine. So he went off and made Dark Crystal. How many shots do you think it took to complete Dark Crystal?
Oh,
I was on the tour, so I can't. This is Shelby's
Yeah, well,
question.
that's cheating, Max.
Yeah,
hmm.
fucking.
You
This is
were
all.
there.
Get the fuck out.
I want to say a lot more. I
You
want to
want to
say
say
there were,
a lot more than 876?
I do. I was a little shocked that the number wasn't higher than 876 for Caper. I don't know, maybe I'm just a crazy perfectionist, but my reels get at least 70 takes.
Honestly, okay, but when we evaluate the production value between like arguably one of the greatest puppetry movies ever made and Great Muppet Caper and the staggering quality of the Weird Puppet Girl TikTok page, the Weird Puppet Girl TikTok page, it's different leagues. It's different leagues. Shelby clears. Um,
Yeah, clearly.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Clearly.
but no, the weird serendipitous beautiful thing about Great Muppet Caper, the movie that was made in order to be allowed to make Dark Crystal, is the Dark Crystal was finished in 876 shots exactly. And
Wow.
in Brian's office, he had the two clapperboards next to each other, showcasing that they were completed in the same amount of shots in this sort of beautiful serendipitous moment and like probably really scary time in Jim Henson's life, discovering this little piece of information out. Thank you
Mhm.
for allowing me my ramble. That was my interesting factoid. I'm now going to be dead silent for the rest of the podcast.
No!
No, please, no.
No, I really appreciate you giving us this context as to how the Dark Crystal got made in the first place. Because like we all like to think of Jim Henson as this person who's like can just magically get Muppet projects made all the time, do whatever. Jim, a lot of the times, was at the mercy of these corporations, of network executives, and he couldn't like part of the reason why Muppet Babies existed is so he could fund other bigger projects. You know, a lot of the times I think a lot of people don't get that it's like it happens all the time in all kinds of media. In Nintendo's case, Masahiro Sakurai could not make the new Kirby Air Rider if he couldn't make the new Smash game. They had to make something extremely profitable before you can work on the passion project. And so Jim Henson very much had to like obviously we all love Muppet Caper. Muppet Caper is an incredible movie. I think it's so beyond just something that was made to fund the Dark Crystal. But you know, I'm glad that that's how it like he was able to get the Dark Crystal out. But I'm happy Will brought up this context of like uh the kind of the way in which this movie got made because Jim Henson had been working on the script for the Dark Crystal for way before he was ever able to get the movie out. So back in 1975-76, Jim Henson was working on SNL. That first season of SNL with that segment Land of Gorch, which obviously wasn't anything like the Dark Crystal, but definitely varied from the usual Muppet goings on. So it was a little darker, a little bit creepier, had a little more creature shop influence. But during that time in 1975-76, when Jim Henson was working on something a little bit creepier, he had the idea for this script called quote unquote The Crystal. The Crystal, it was a 25-page story that kind of outlined the original idea of the world of the Dark Crystal. It didn't even get into the entirety of like who Kira is and who all of these, you know, all of these people throughout the movie, they don't get into it. It is just fully like what are the initial goings ons that started the world. Jim Henson basically created the baseline of the Dark Crystal lore all the way back in the 70s before he ever got like the funding from Universal to get this thing done. So I just think it's crazy that Jim Henson had kind of had this in his back pocket. He had this little freaky thing he wanted to do for so long.
I do love that it took kind of so long for him to sort of hone and perfect this because the thing that I love about the Dark Crystal is that upon revisiting it, because like I remember being quite overwhelmed on my first watch, but just about the sheer amount of world building that he was throwing at us in such a short amount of time. Watching it again in preparation for this episode, I can really appreciate just the notion of so getting lost in the source of your own lore. As somebody who has written a few D&D campaigns in which I've created my own like worlds and own lore for those worlds and trying to like find a non-agonizing way to get the lore across to the players in like a palatable way. It's like, Jim, I get it. I get being so wrapped up in your own like world building that you forget that the audience doesn't know anything about the world. So I respect just how hard he went on the world building. Somebody that we have got with us, who we may have already mentioned, is here. Shelby. Did we bring up that you're here?
Weird Puppet
I
Girl,
think so. I
buy a
think so.
weirdling now.
Incredible. Um, where'd you go?
Weirdlings.
We are very fortunate to have you here because you informed us recently that as of late you have become somewhat of a lore expert. on the lore of the Dark Crystal. Would you indulge us in a as brief or as lengthy as you like it, just sort of introductory sense of the world building for the setting of the Dark Crystal?
I don't mean to
Oh,
cut anybody off before we get into that. I just wanted to quickly say when Will talked about the kind of getting lost in the sauce before we get into the kind of overview of the lore here, the way I like to think about the Dark Crystal in comparison to Labyrinth, because I think a lot of people think of these movies in kind of a similar vein. If you're kind of thinking about the Dark Crystal versus Jim Henson's other dark fantasy films, the Dark Crystal forces lore down your throat in every sentence. Every sentence moves along lore. Every fucking thing in the movie is just lore, lore, lore. Versus Labyrinth, where they just go through the labyrinth and shit is not explained. Thing is just like, what's that? I don't know. It's a thing. But Dark Crystal is like the different, like, if Labyrinth is Jim Henson putting, like, just being like, yeah, I don't even know what the fuck that is. We're moving through the labyrinth. Dark Crystal is we need to know every single thing about this stone. This stone and this thing has importance, and everything is worth thousands of years on this earth. Jim Henson drank his lore Kool-Aid so hard in this one, and I respect it. But thank God we have somebody here who knows a little bit about it.
who likes the taste of Kool-Aid, you say?
Yeah, I love that shit. Grape. I like grape.
And one of my favorite facts in the, oh gosh, making of video you can watch is that Frank Oz kind of was in the same boat. He had no idea what was really going on. Like, I think they said he saw the movie and he was like, oh, I guess, yeah, that's what Jim was talking about this whole time. Like, what
It's
an
like
insane
I
person.
fully just thought my boy was going through some kind of state of psychosis. Glad to know that it was for something.
Which he was. But I
But
love
yeah,
this
but
movie.
still, not everybody gets to go through a state of just like being insane and you get a movie out of it.
Going absolutely Urskek, if you will.
Oh my God.
Speaking of the Urskek, let's get into this is a vague overview of what's going on. If you haven't seen the movie and you're just listening to us talk and you're like, oh, yeah, lots of words, lots of strange ones,
I like
here's kind of
good word.
what's up in the universe. So, about every 1,000 years on the planet Thra, there is a great conjunction. 1,000 years ago, approximately to the start of this movie, the Great Conjunction happened and the Dark Crystal chipped sometime around then. When the Dark Crystal chipped, it split the Skeksis from the Mystics, or the Uru. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. Before they were the Urskek, now they are the Uru and the Skeksis. So these two beings are soul tied together. For every Skeksis, there is a pairing mystic. When something happens to each other, poof, the other will feel pain, disappear, die, whatever you will. Let's see.
This is
Where am
already
I in my
so
drop?
incredible. I'm just like, there's conjunctions and crystals and everything. I want not to throw you off your train of thought here, but do we know what is the dark crystal? If any of you know what the fuck this thing is.
My best guess is that it's kind of the life force of Thra. Like, this is what's keeping peace on Earth. It's what's keeping everything spinning around, you know?
Yeah, my kind of thought is that it's like if our Earth, it's like if the Earth we live on just had like kind of a fail button, like a big red button that was like if this thing breaks, everything is fucked. And so it's like I think it's silly, and I enjoy that this world is dependent on this one fucking crystal to keep things in order.
The Muppet Apocalypse button.
Burn!
Oh my God, we have to do another apocalypse episode.
It's coming, it's coming. All right. So, 1,000 years ago, the crystal chipped. We're up to today, and everything is kind of kicked off by the Emperor of the Skeksis dying off. I believe it's just old age wasn't enough life serum to go around. The Emperor of the Skeksis was tied to Jen, our main character Gelfling's master. So sadly, he passed as well. This kind of kicked things into gear, and the rest of the mystics sent Jen off to find and restore the crystal. Ooh.
What?
Restore the witch crystal?
Um, the
Um,
spooky
On the
one,
tip
the
of my
emo one,
tongue.
the goth crystal, I think.
um,
Emo crystal.
this is the best
Weird,
of the real ones.
weird
What?
little freak Rob Lake.
Rob Lake Crystal.
I can't. I
No,
can't.
please.
They were feeling the magic for sure.
Hmm.
So, shortly after Jen sets off on his journey, he meets up with Algra. Algra is this crazy, scary lady, astronomer, I believe, has this gorgeous model of the heavens, the three sun planetary system of Thra. It's also a year is called a trine, by the way, because three suns, another Lord Ra.
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah. So Augur has the shard of the Dark Crystal that Jen is looking for. But these Skeksis figure out that Jen is there. The Dark Crystal gives them an image of another Gelfling. They're like, what? The Gelflings? We killed them all off in a genocide years ago because of the prophecy that they take us down.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Jen's still around. He's got the crystal, and they send the Garthim, the giant beetle monsters, after
Oh,
Augur and Jen. I
those
love these
things
guys.
freaked me out to no end. Oh. Beetles, I'm fine with. I just don't like them that big and that weirdly humanoid and sentient.
I don't think you're meant to. There's a scene where they smash a table, and it's like, wow, that is a fist. I would hate to be on the other side of that.
Oh,
I would
good
hate to be a
grief.
table that gets smashed in half by a beetle. I'm always saying this.
You're right?
Looked
My
so
nightmare.
fucking hard to puppeteer. I have like no idea like how they did that. Like genuinely, that's the one that I am not sure how they accomplished that.
That's actually such a good point because there's so many creatures like them in this. There's a certain point when you're watching the movie where you stop thinking about it as something that's like getting puppeteered. It's not like, oh, these are puppets. Because it seems so inconceivable that like a person is operating one of these things. It's like that I cannot wrap my head around how some of these like little fucking things were operated,
Yeah,
other than the fact that they were like built and they are now sentient. They are alive and the cameras are just rolling
literally. Because how do those things roll around? Like genuinely, how do they roll?
in such an unpleasant way.
Ugh, creepy.
Pretty weepy.
Creepy. What happens next, Shelby? I'm at the edge of my seat.
So after the giant beetles break down the wall because they don't know how to use a door, I think I heard that joke somewhere else, but it's so funny. He is set off and he's in the woods. He really has no idea what to do because, no offense to Jen, he's kind of clueless and lost at every point in this movie, if not
Doesn't know
someone
jack shit about anything at any.
literally. And someone will just walk up to him and be like, here is the answer that you're looking for. Here's your next step, Jen. Go.
Is the next point of the plot? You got it. Now go, Jen. Go.
What I really love about Jem is that he's just always like inner monologuing, but it's like almost never about anything important. He's just
Dang.
like complaining about shit.
I'm
I did
taking a bath.
I did not even specifically that, because that's one of the few times where he's actually talking to somebody. But I did actually make a note in here about because Dark Crystal is unique in that it's very different from the Muppet Project because with a lot of Muppet Projects the voice that you're hearing out of the Muppet is usually by like the puppeteer that's portraying them. So if it's like Jim Henson doing Kermit, it's usually Kermit, or it's like Jim Henson or like Jerry Nelson or Frank Oz or Richard Hunt, Dave Goelz, they'll all be like playing characters. And they all did puppeteering in this, but nearly none of them actually had like voice roles as any of the characters. So Jim Henson is the principal puppeteer of Jem, but it is not Jim Henson voicing Jem. However, there are points where you can kind of get the sense of Jim's influence over Jem, and I think a lot of it comes through in some of his dialogue because some of Jem's dialogue is very Kermit adjacent in a weird way. And
Yup.
one of the lines that I put down was when he falls like in some mud or like steps in mud and he goes like, "Oh, right in the mud." And I'm like, that's such a fucking Kermit thing to
That's
say.
some shit.
Hmm.
Kermit would go, oh man, I got mud on my
Oh,
flippers.
right in the mud. Like just absolutely most of the time just having nothing of note to say except just like what's immediately happening around him. It's like you are so lame. I'm so happy that we're following you on your little journey. You are like the least equipped person to be doing all of this
Dude.
shit ever, and I'm so glad that you're here.
I want to say something that, like, obviously we can get into it as the podcast kind of continues here, but I think this is a good point to at least bring this up. I think Shelby had a very good point here about how the things will just like the plot elements will just kind of happen. Like Jen gets the shard from Agra and he just kind of runs into Agra and she happens to have it. And then he happens to run into Kira, which we'll get into. But it's like I love the Dark Crystal so much, but throughout the entire movie, I found myself laughing so hard because it's the most Jim Henson shit ever. That like he wants to fit so much in so many ideas, all with and Jim Henson's thing. He's always feels like he's running out of time. Feels like he has to get everything in this short runtime. That I found myself laughing so hard throughout the whole movie because every single thing just Jen just gets it and moves along. And there's quite literally like when Kira appears, there's no like, oh, how did Kira appear? Whoa, there's another Gelfling. It just kind of is. He falls in the mud. Kira shows up. Boom! They're partners now. They're fucking going and taking this down, and she knows all the lore. And it's
Oh,
like,
oh, what a dramatic
you
recreation there of the Kira reveal.
Oh, yes. The way she just kind of lurks out of a cave and is like, hello.
like hello. And like I love Jim Henson so dearly, and I think, and I'm just such a huge fan of so many of his movies. But there's such a specific Jim Henson-ism in a lot of his movies that things just appear and happen, and there's quite literally no like there's nothing that indicates that it's going to happen, and they're obviously so important to the plot, but there's nothing like people like in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker crashes down to meet Yoda. He's like, "Oh, I need to find Yoda." And he crashes down and then he's like, "Oh my God, he's looking for him." And then he has this whole back and forth and trying to figure out who Yoda is. It's kind of similar with Jen meets Agra, but I feel like in Star Wars, like Luke has a little more struggle, a little more like trial and tribulation before he kind of gets the thing that he needs to go. Jen gets in there and is like, all right, here's the fucking crystal, basically. Yeah, here's the plot of the movie, and here's the crystal. Now go.
Gemma's just like me when the narrative tells me to do something.
Like, I love this movie, but I can't help feel like at most plots in the point, like most points in the plot, it's just like that dumbass Jen stumbles into a situation and it works out because either somebody else knows everything about what's happening or someone quite literally physically gives him the thing he needs to get going.
Stumble is a great way to put that. He kind of just stumbles through the entire film. Love
Dude,
him though.
Oh,
yeah.
bless his heart. Bless his little gelfling socks.
Oh, Gelfling.
Oh, going back to before, the only two performers that both voiced and performed on the movie were Brian Meal, who I believe performed a different character than he voiced, and Steve Whitmire, who both
Yes.
performed and voiced the scientist. The only person to do both for the same character, I believe.
When
Um,
you're watching Dark Crystal, I remember the point in the movie when I realized that the scientist Skeksis is fucking Steve Whitmire. I was just like, whoa, that's the Steve voice. That's the everything else does not sound Henson-y. That is a Steve voice.
that's a really interesting thing to say because I tried desperately. First time watching it, going into it, I knew that Steve was a Skeksis. Could not make him out the entire movie. But the only voice that I could make out of anybody in that whole movie was I don't remember which one he was, but Jerry Nelson was definitely a
Yes.
Skeksis because I would recognize that voice anywhere.
I'm pretty sure I could be entirely wrong on this, but the scene in which the scene in which Jen gets into the crystal, like kind of gets back into the Dark Crystal Palace, and he runs into those two Skeksis that are like, "It's a Gelfling, Gelfling!" Ooh, and they freak out. that whole scene with all the Skeksis like freaking out and shit, you can hear Jerry Nelson and Steve so clearly. That fucking scene, it's you can just it feels like a Muppet Show episode. I was laughing the whole time during that scene because it sounds Muppety as fuck.
I absolutely have a point that I want to make, but something that I just want to harken to, and it's a thought that's been building up the entire time that we've been planning this, is that we need to get Max involved in some kind of Dark Crystal project, whether it be a fan project or an official one. Because unfortunately, your Skeksis voice is just fucking tremendous in a way that I feel like is wasted for just this podcast alone.
Mmm, yes! I ordered relish on my hot dog. Not ketchup, yes!
I believe he asked for no pickles.
You die now, Gelfling! Blah!
I don't know what it is. You just have such like
Mhm.
it's very Skeksis-y to use your own to use your own
Mhm.
adjective.
I am also very tall, and I feel like if I ever got the chance to puppeteer a Skeksis, it would work out very well because I am long enough to drape that whole thing over my back and put the little Skeksis head in my hand.
Yes! Gelfling!
I
Who up,
sincerely
Gelfling? They Skeksis right now!
I
Yes!
sincerely hope that anybody from the Jim Henson Company listens to our podcast and gets this person in a Skeksis one day.
They, they're like, we want you to play a Skeksis, but not any of the like serious creepy Skeksis, but only the ones like the gay one that's all pink, and then the ones that are eating. Like you can be either of those Skeksis.
Oh my
Eating.
God.
Eating. Also,
And
I gotta
that's
say,
like your title. It's like the Emperor, the Chamberlain, the gay one.
gay Skeksis. I want to
Gay.
say, like, there absolutely is a fucking gay ass Skeksis. Like, it's so funny to me that they're all these like creepy ass, like evil fucking beings, but then they're like low key accepting of their like one gay friend who like wears all the makeup and does the shit, and they're like,
We kill all the Gelflings, but we will never be homophobic.
But we will serve.
We will serve. I will murder every Gelfling, but I will never say anything homophobic.
This actually brings me to one of my discussion questions, if you will indulge me.
oh.
Ooh,
So,
okay.
besides the gay Skeksis, we have 9 real Skeksis on the list. We have the Chamberlain, the General, the High Priest, the Scientist, the Gourmand, the Ornamental, the Historian, the Slave Master, and the Treasurer.
The treasurer. That's
It's
such a
like this
funny,
like
like regular ass title.
there's just like local council committee ass Skeksis.
The Secretary.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The comptroller Skeksis.
My question is, which of these Skeksis would you be? And what new title of a Skeksis would you invent?
Ooh, I like
Oh.
that. Which Skeksis would I be? That's actually, ooh, I'm gonna have to think about it. Because, okay, first, now that you've listed them all off, what's come to the forefront of my mind is I'm fairly sure it was the High Priest that was Jerry Nelson. Because I could recognize that voice a mile off when he was like, when they were like having their little duel, and it was like, the Chamberlain has lost. Go take all of his clothes for some reason. It's like, okay, that's Jerry.
It's very pigs and spacey.
Yeah, it's sort of like his very announcery. He's very sort of sure of himself in his presentation. But I'm not going to be that one. I just for my own brain's sake, I was like, that's got to be Jerry, right? Fuck. Okay. You know, just because I was immediately attached to the title of it, and just because of like a personal feeling that I have about myself in my life, I'm gonna say if I were to be a Skeksis, I would probably be the Gourmand. I am a
Mm.
big as
Mm.
anybody who was with me in New York will tell you, I am a big enjoyer of food. I Food is very important to me. I have a lot of love for food. I have a lot of love for cooking, which I have a feeling is not like high up in the priority list of the Skeksis. They definitely do not cook their own shit. But yeah, if I were to be one of the like titled Skeksis, it would probably be the gourmand. Because even though they just be like shoveling that shit into their mouths, there's at least one of them who like appreciates food on that level. Mostly because I'm also not qualified, I think, to be any of those other ones.
What? You don't want to be the slave master Skeksis?
Oh,
Like,
you
come
know, I
on.
thought about it, Max,
You
but I'm
know?
not so sure that that's for me. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's what I'm into.
should I be the military Skeksis that kills Gelflings, or should I be the one that enslaves podlings?
Mhm.
Oh, you're
Or should I be
spoiled
the
for
one that
choice.
likes food?
I want to be the one that fucking eats good, man. That's one of the only ones
Also,
that's like attractive to me as a job role.
yeah, it seems like because a lot of the other Skeksis, we get like a very clear picture of what their job is. Scientist Skeksis, he drains the life forms of the podlings and used to do it with Gelflings. The fucking Emperor, they all have like a very distinct role. But the Gourmand, the only thing that we see him do really is just like dunk his face into a bowl of water, like pick his little teeth and be like, We see him enjoy a good meal. And honestly, that's all we need from this guy.
He's just like me for real. I too
Mm.
dunk my face into a big bowl of water and then pick my horrible little Skeksis teeth when I'm done. Exactly. You're painting a very vivid picture, but yes, that is my pig.
So, oh my God, what a great pick. I like the gourmand. And so I'm actually picking something very similar because despite having opposite personalities, the gourmand and this other Skeksis are often seen together. They seem to be good friends. I am choosing, we've referenced them in the past, we've called them the gay Skeksis, the ornamentalist Skeksis. I love the ornamentalist. There's a few things. Okay, the Skeksis are like these disgusting creatures. They kill, they shovel food, they're blah, 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 as we've described. The fucking ornamentalist is the only one out of all of those Skeksis that like gives like they put on makeup and they wear like cute clothes like they clearly like put like way more effort. They have this like really cute pink outfit and like clearly makeup exists in the Dark Crystal world because they have access to like lip gloss and mascara and blush and shit. And like during the eating scene, the fucking ornamentalist just has this cute little thing that they use to like poke the food, and then going to eat it very very delicately. There's a lot of reasons why I love this. One, I think it's really funny that in this like the Skeksis are these like genocidal, horrible, evil creatures that just do destruction on the world. But like they're like accepting towards like the one kind of queer presenting Skeksis, and they have no judgment towards them. It's like the Skeksis operate under the mindset of like we can excuse genocide, but we draw the line at judging people for binary fucking. We don't do binary gender expression in the Skeksis household.
I I love which ones we gravitated towards because we just like we're like, oh, you've got all of these like horrible like beasts. How do you choose between them? And it's like, I'll take the hungry one, and they're gonna take the cunty one. So like, like that's
And so another reason with the ornamentalist, so there's this thing that I'm taking directly from the Dark Crystal Muppet Wiki here. Is like just in I just think this is really funny. This isn't exactly why I picked them, but I think it's like their personality is like funny compared to a lot of the other Skeksis. A lot of the other Skeksis, they're described as like this vain evil creature that has no problem killing. They think nothing but of like destruction and pain and death. This is what Jim Henson described the ornamental Skeksis as. The character's pre-production notes describe them as a decadent, perverted sexually, sensual, hedonistic, and theatrical Skeksis. So what you're saying is that this is like the fucking like this is the Skeksis that fucks all the time and like is like they're a hedonist. All they want to do is bang. And I'm like, what? So this Skeksis is like a theatrical. So they're like what they're saying is that they're just like a cunty hoe. Like they're just like this Skeksis is just like kind of like the hoe Skeksis that like also gets a bit like diva with the way they do shit. It's a bit theatrical.
I was gonna say you got the emperor, the chamberlain, the scientist, the slave master, the diva,
Uh,
the,
And purr.
let's kill those gelflings. Blah.
Jesus, oh my goodness. What,
And
that's
then
genuinely such a fun question. Oh my
yeah,
God. Okay,
Shelby.
well, forgive us if we turn the mirror back around and we deflect this question back onto you, Shelby. Do you have a pick locked and loaded for which of these Skeksis that you would want to be?
Oh, I'm prepared for part one and part two.
Oh.
I I am quite obviously the ritual master, the high priest.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I
of
control
course.
all the bats. I have a spooky basement where I keep all my bats. That's pretty much where you'll find me, all my little babies, giving them little fruit every day. And then I send them off.
You
And the
know,
part
that's
two.
weirdly beautiful.
That's
I'm like,
really
wow, you had an answer locked and loaded, but it's like, oh, that's sweet.
I
Thank you.
love again, you picked an answer where it's like not any of the most like horribly destructive Skeksis. The eater, the diva, and the bird appreciator. The
It's
bat
true.
appreciator Skeksis. Like,
I mean, I'd
I
like to hope that none of us like would immediately gravitate towards like the slave master, because
yeah,
otherwise I feel like we'd have
the
to have some
fucking
questions about how
Chamberlain.
long we want to keep this podcast going.
Dude, is there so besides the bat stuff, is there any other particular reason why Ritual Master Skeksis is your go-to skek?
You know, rituals can be interpreted as events. I do love a party. I do love an event, you
Mm.
know.
You just gotta call
We
all of your live streams like, "Hi, we're Puppet Girl Ritual," dropping on Twitch.
Hey everybody.
welcome. No, no, please do the bit. I'm dying to hear.
Hi, everybody. Weird Ritual Master here again with another stream. We are with our sacrificer, Joe Muppetology.
It's so true. Why is it so true?
Oh my God.
Oh
So,
God.
okay, you mentioned part one and part two. Oh wait, yes, the second part of your question was if we were to create a title for Skeksis that we would be outside of the main troupe, what would we be known as? What would our Skeksis title be?
Yes.
I've
Ooh.
got one locked and loaded.
Oh, it might be even harder. Max, am I allowed to ask you to go first on this one so that I can have a little bit more time to
Absolutely.
think about it?
I've been thinking about this. As soon as Shelby asked this question, I was like, okay, if because I kind of thought of it in the way of like, I have to be a Skeksis. And the Skeksis have done some pretty fucked up, horrible, horrible things. I'm trying to not be a part of all of that goings on. I think that like I think we had some safe picks before with like the gourmand and the bat appreciator and stuff. We're seeming to do Skeksis, but they already exist. We have to make our own Skeksis. So here's my idea. I would be the burnout Skeksis. You know, the way that the Skeksis have all their roles and like all these things that they do to keep the kingdom going. I'm like the brother of the fucking Emperor Skeksis that doesn't do shit and that just sits around smoking like podling hash all day. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I could help you kill some gelflings, but like, I don't know, man. I'm just not feeling it today.
It's just the fucking like lame stoner Skeksis.
Yeah, I want to be like the disappointment Skeksis because when all shit goes down and it like comes to the end, like when the Nuremberg trial against the Skeksis is eventually raised for their horrible killing of the Gelflings, they're gonna put stoner fucking Skeksis to the stand and just be like, I don't know, man. I was just like in another room, fucking baked as shit. I had no idea what was happening. And they'd be like, and then all the other Skeksis would be like, that's true. He's been a disappointment since the very beginning. They've never contributed.
That's weirdly strategic.
right?
You
I
really
don't.
brought it around with the burnout Skeksis.
And then there'd be that scene in the movie where Kira and Jen confront the Stoner Ske when they're sneaking through the castle. They run into Stoner Skeksis, and Stoner Skeksis is just like, I don't even like. I didn't even see you, man. Like, I'm not involved with any. That's more my brother's thing. And then Kira would have her monologue of like, well, even though that you don't actively participate in the genocide of the Gelflings, you are complicit by taking the money from your brother and everything else and using it to buy podling hash. And I'd be like, you know what? Fuck you, Kira. Like, and then leave. But I wouldn't have done all the other bullshit. So I think Stoner Skeksis is the move.
What a
So
what a web you have weaved with of the Stoner Skeksis' tale. That's enough for a whole other Netflix spin-off.
My Skeksis hands are clean of the situation. Clearly, I didn't kill any Gelflings. I was just smoking, dude.
Oh, goodness me.
Will, how are you gonna follow that?
Yeah. How are
Well,
you
the thing
doing?
is that I had one that would actually like fit in like as a role for a Skeksis that would be sort of like that is in line with like what the Skeksis represent in terms of their sort of like what they're allegorical for. They're like aristocrats. They are cruel aristocrats. And what do aristocrats sort of tend to use to kind of like, I guess, kind of distract themselves, sort of occupy themselves? Um, Theater. I think that especially like high society theater is something that has always been kind of like associated with aristocracy. And so if I were to have a Skeksis title, I would call it the playwright Skeksis, perhaps. I feel like
Mm.
I would be the Skeksis that like writes like dramatic tales or like puts on like stories and productions. Definitely like having like poor little podling like actors having to play these out. But
Unfortunately.
I would be the Skeksis that's like the just sort of like regales and entertains the others with like outlandish theater pieces. If I have to be part of this, like, it didn't occur to me that I could just be like a stoner with no job. Um, if I was gonna be a part of this like arrangement, then I would be the one that like allows the Skeksis to be absolved of their like any negative feelings that they might have towards their doing with escapism. Mostly because I like to write, I like to I like telling stories, and if I have to do it for the Skeksis, it would probably be in that context.
Would you, as a playwright, Skeksis, I think in a lot of these aristocratic societies, they often would only write plays that are like positive towards the kingdom and like very much propaganda pieces for the kingdom, and people who wrote outside of that were killed. I have this idea that playwright Skeksis is like, I actually want to write about astronauts, and I want to write about fire. I don't want to keep writing propaganda. Fuck that. I want to write sketch comedy. Yeah.
Live from the tower, it's Saturday night.
Ah.
It's like when the kind of big conjunction happens and all of the Skeksis are trying to kill Kira and Jen and everything. You, the playwright Skeksis, is just like, I mean, I kind of have this script I need to finish. Like, pulling me away from that would mean that it would take even longer. And like, you can handle the conjunction, but I gotta finish this script.
You know what I think it will be like, actually? I think that me as the playwright Skeksis, I would put on productions that are like conceivably like pro Gelfling or pro Podling. But the Skeksis strike me as like it's like Republicans who love Star Wars and don't realize that like they are the Empire. And so it would definitely be like stories of triumph against like a big imposing force, and the Skeksis would be like, wow, I really enjoyed that, and that doesn't mean anything. I feel like that's the kind of productions that I would end up putting like real like Robin Hood stories, and the Skeksis is just like, wow, that was really entertaining. And that's the only reason it exists is to be
Hmm.
entertaining. And it doesn't have anything to say. Isn't this a fun play? I feel like
That
that's
is
the kind
such
of
a good
energy that
answer.
the Skeksis bring to their sense of media literacy.
Absolutely thesisless.
I also think it's like that would actually fully work because it seems like each Skeksis has like a specific niche that they're really, really good at. Like the ornamentalist seems to be like a very talented like costume maker. They describe them in the freaking like the character interpretation of what they are as like somebody that does have like talent in crafting gowns and crafting like these beautiful pieces. And it seems like, despite we don't know what's happened over these last 1,000 years, basically, until we get to, I mean, we're not talking Age of Resistance in this episode. You know, the prequel shit could be completely, some things could have happened. I have no idea. But from what we're going off of just the movie, it seems like each of the Skeksis just has like a thing they're really good at, whether it be eating food or fucking like designing clothes. You could totally have the Skeksis that just writes a lot and like playwrights. It seems to be very in line with what they fucking do.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and what about you, Shelby? If you had a Skeksis title,
Well, we would be working very closely, Will, because I'm the prop master Skeksis, obviously.
ooh, oh my God,
If they needed a big, goofy, I don't know, Gelfling model, if you will,
Gelfling
maybe
energy. Ay.
for the SNL, for the Skeksis Nightlife.
ooh, Skeksis Nightlife. Oh my God, I.
Chamberlain! Ornamentalist!
The gay
How's your?
one.
And here's your host, the Slave Master. Oh, boo, boo,
And then all the other
No.
boo.
Skeksis are watching and they're like, I hope they don't do Land of Gorch this time.
Oh my
Holy
God.
shit, I like Prop Master Skeksis.
Well, you know
Now,
what?
after hearing those two well thought out answers, I'm like, well, fuck. I went for the full joke answer.
No, it's a good balance. It's balancing the scales. We got two Skeksis with for every two Skeksis with job, for every two Skeksis with a job, we gotta have one that's an unemployed burnout. It's
Why
balancing
would
the
I
universal
kill
scale.
Gelfling when I could just fucking chill, man? Come
Eat
on.
Doritos.
Someone's got to watch the SNL reruns.
Oh, it's gotta be done.
Holy
Gotta be
shit.
done.
Oh my God. Thank you for bringing this discussion piece. I love that it's like, how far are we into the movie? We're at Jen falls into the mud.
Yes,
So
we're just
far.
about
We're
to meet Kira.
just about to get to Kira. My
Kira's
God.
not even in the fucking movie yet, and we're already like, gay Skeksis? Let's talk about that for 20 minutes.
Well, on that note, after the Beatles come and storm, big mud puddle, huge mud episode going
Hey,
on here.
yay.
Oh
Fucking
God,
Mud City over here.
Oh, right in
forget
the
about
mud.
it.
Oh, right in the mud.
Oh, yes, I've already done my reenactment of not Jen, Kira coming out of the cave, the hood.
Diva,
We got Fizzgig. Love that little guy.
little fucking freak.
I referred to him as Dog Ball in my notes.
Dog ball.
Yes, I love that dog ball.
So I should just point out, Kira, Jen falls in the mud. Kira appears. There's really no like, she just appears. And then she becomes a super important part of the movie. And it's just like, how I love this movie. How the hell does Jen just run into the only other fucking Gelfling when they've never ever seen a Gelfling and none of the Skeksis have seen a Gelfling in that long? And then Jen just like, oh no, the mud. Wait, another Gelfling? What?
You're just like me.
I'm taking a
Just
bath.
like you, I'm just like you, you're just like me, you're just like
And like they do their kind of soul connection thing. And I do actually like this scene because I think it does do a good job kind of like telling the story through a way that doesn't feel as like contrived as like Jen just meeting Kira and then her being like, don't you know all of the lore that you haven't been aware of? Like I like that little scene a bit more, but it does also kind of feel like Jim Henson just being like here's all the cards. Here is everything that they experience all in 1 minute. So you are caught up.
Yeah, I'm glad we're at this scene though, because I would like to talk about it for a little bit because it's genuinely one of my favorite scenes in the movie. For multiple reasons. Because one, I think for everything that we said about how this movie does like just throw stuff at you, one of this movie's big strengths is that it establishes character very quickly. You really quickly get a sense of like when it introduces a new character or like an important character, you get a sense of like what they're about very quickly. And I think that's one of the big strengths of a movie that's got so much going for it. And so I think this Kira introduction scene is a very good scene because you really like you're not spending like the next like 45 minutes trying to grapple like, oh, I feel like I don't need to know anything about Kira. Because even without like the soul bond, it's like you get a good sense of like she's like out on her own and she's capable and she's a survivor as like in big contrast to Jem, who like you get a very sense he's very naive and he's not like had much life experience. And there is a scene that really hammers that home, and it is their soul bond, which is that they touch each other and they have a series of flashbacks, hallucinations, where they just kind of experience each other's entire lives through a series of flashbacks, just like instantaneously. And we get to be in on this. And the reason why I love this scene so much is because it is so fucking funny. Because it is just a big like compilation of all of the fucking horrific traumas that Kira has suffered throughout her entire life. It's her like watching her people mowed down as like as a child, the Skeksis, the big fucking beetles, and being like taken in by the podlings, but still having to like fend for herself. And then it's and I
I'm having
wrote
a
down
bath.
a few of my favorite things that he said because it's just his like fucking like happy-go-lucky like like little gnome life, and it's like Kira will be like, "Oh, my parents, they're dead," and then it's little Gem, and one of the mystics who like adopted him as a baby is like, "I'm having a bath."
I'm having a bath. I can't. Every time I watch this fucking movie and the I'm having a bath, it kills me. Dude, and like you described it so perfectly because I do love this scene. I think it is like a very good way of like conveying a lot of information to the audience without like over explaining shit. However, it is so fucking funny that like it's the juxtaposition between Jen going like, and then they killed my family. The podlings took me in, but they burned down the village. It was the dark times. We could never find any happiness. And then it cuts to Jen and he's like, I'm learning math. Those things are numbers and they help us understand
They
things.
show me numbers. It's
They
like
killed my parents, and then I was adopted by the podlings, but I've still had to fend for myself. I know about words. They use to describe things.
I was born with glass bones and paper skin. They took me to Denny's and they got me a grand slam.
I ate so many moons over my hammies. It was great.
For
It's
real.
so because like yes, it's good for conveying like they have lived very different lives, but Jem sucks in a really beautiful way in this scene.
Yo, it genuinely feels like a conversation. It's like let's say you and me were having a conversation, and I'm just like, yeah, man, this certain thing from my childhood was just like really hard. Like honestly, like I'm opening up to you about this and the fact that like we're having this connection. Like this is like a very kind of big trauma for me. And you just respond with, dude, I had a bath and then like I learned math and shit. My childhood was fucking great,
It's like
dude. What are you talking about?
I'm really sorry that you like endured this like great hardship that has had like a really drastic effect on like how your development as an adult. When I was 7, I really liked Jolly Ranchers. That's a fact about me and my past. That's what I got going on.
Also, it's like the way that the whole movie, especially you kind of gets outlined in the scene, he does not understand like the severity of the Gelfling destruction and any. It seems like Kira is carrying this trauma. She is somebody that knows everything that happened about like she has these memories. And then Jen, the whole fucking movie is just kind of like oh wow, I wonder why I'm on this quest. And the Skeksis, I guess we have to defeat them. And Kira the whole time is like, yeah, they're fucking evil. We have been about hating the Skeksis forever. What are you talking about?
They're trying to kill us, and he's like, maybe I'll take a bath again later. Or
Maybe I should trust this Chamberlain guy.
I'll sit around naked and play my flute again, perhaps, if I if I feel like it.
So Kira and Jen meet Shelby.
Yes, yes.
They meet
So
Shelby.
they meet. Oh yeah, my best friends. We're
Yeah.
really close actually. We saw Frankenstein the other night. They were big fans. But so Kira brings Jen home to the Podlings. The Podlings have this merry little festive cave underground that makes me want to cry whenever I see it because I wish I lived there. They're like Fraggles in a way. Very, very whimsical, joyful. They're dancing, they're singing, they're eating. But of course, Jen comes around and kind of ruins absolutely everything.
Yeah, like I actually never noticed the adjacents between Podlings and Fraggles. That's actually a fun comparison.
Caves, dancing. I don't know, there might be a radish in there. I wouldn't be shocked.
But I'm sure if we'd like analyze the film frame by frame, we can find some kind of radish adjacent vegetation.
So,
We will find some kind of connecting thread between the Podlings and the Fraggles. God damn it!
God damn it.
That's
So for me, this scene, like we've described it so far as like the podling kind of dance scene. Like the podlings, they come and have a meal and they bring Jen into their home, and you feel this warmth, you feel this community, you feel like Jen is like surrounded by like all of this happiness and greatness. I have a lot to say about this fucking scene. So there's a few things. First of all, when you get to the underground kind of podling area, it's almost like it's not like the movie is like directly telling you exactly what's gonna happen, but I feel like in any fucking dark fantasy movie, when you get to the scene of like the village where everyone's having a great time and they're like, oh yes, like nothing is going wrong, this is wonderful, that whole thing's gonna get fucked up. Like I know that for a fact. Like the moment, even the first time I watched this, it was like Jen gets to the podlings and I'm like, they're dead, they're dead. They're fucking dead. I know it. This whole place is done.
too good to be true.
And it's like, does Jen is like kind of ignoring some of the basic rules of like of this is I'm gonna say this in the whitest way possible. Jen over here has a misunderstanding of what it is to have ops, because you don't bring your ops around your crib. You don't bring them around your friends and family. That's how they get killed. But like Jen knows that these fucking things are after him. Why the fuck would he go into the Podling village and just be like, everything's good? Get him killed, Jen. What the fuck's wrong with you?
It's
There's
he's fundamentally the thing that I like about Jem is that he is somebody who is so like unaware or unaccepting of the fact that he is the protagonist of a fantasy like story. Honestly, like Kira is somebody who is like locked and loaded, ready to be the protag at full at like a second's notice, and then she stumbles into this fucking guy who is
It,
just like inexplicably the main one.
it almost feels like there is a different universe where there is a Jen, like there is a Kira movie where she's the protagonist and then fucking Jen enters her life and she's like, I guess now I'm responsible for this idiot. Also,
In a,
it's like, I
in a different version, perhaps. In the Shelby recut of Dark Crystal, we get a Kira-centric movie.
absolutely.
I not okay. Before the podcast started, Will and I had a moment where we were like, the
A Muppet
pod
Moment?
scene is this one of the scenes in the movie that I'm gonna go a little Lisa Simpson mode. All right. Like I've been making a lot of jokes about the movie. I've been offering things I love about the movie, things like that. Um, the the dinner scene, the scene where Kira and Jen have meal with the Podlings, everyone's singing and dancing. This is one of the most like important and well-made Henson scenes I've ever seen. I think it is like one of the most important things that Henson put into a movie. I think because it outlines perfectly like I think I think with this movie, I am very clear in my analysis with it that I think this is a movie that is supposed to be about genocide. This movie is about people, authoritarian power taking over and murdering an entire population of people because of shit that they don't agree with, because of their differences. This movie it's a genocide movie. It is a movie about a population being wiped out. And this scene with the Podlings, they are not the Gelflings. They are not the people that they are at. The Podlings are not the people they are after. Obviously, Jen is the focus. But the way in which that they steal the podlings, they use them as slaves, they fuck up this whole village, they kill and destroy, separate families from their children, do all of these horrible things, because it's like such a incredibly well done outline on how authoritarianism and genocide affects everyone. It's not just this thing that we can ignore and be complicit in and like be localized to one specific area. Like, no, the fucking podlings are getting affected by the genocide against the gelflings. And this scene in which the podlings are getting fucked up and they're being taken as slaves, it is to me, this perfect kind of portrayal in a movie of how a fucking raid and a genocide actually happens. The way in which that the oppressive forces come in and that they destroy things, they separate families, they do all that. I think it's so bold of Henson that I obviously this movie is like the weird like fantasy movie that Henson made, quote unquote. But like I think at the time, and I think to this day, I think a lot of people are missing. Like, yeah, there's a lot of silly elements. Yes, this movie is like definitely so weird and compared to everything else Henson did. But it's not like he was saying it without a very like clear and distinct message. Like it's like in fantasy, like we brought up Star Wars, like fantasy is so often used to convey those big topics of like apartheid, genocide, oppression, all of these big things, authoritarianism. And like, I think Jim Henson, by making the Skeksis these like very disgusting creatures, these creatures that are so fucking like kind of gross to look at and scary, and the way in which they destroy the podling village, the way that they have no mercy against these oppressed people, really, I think is a fantastic job of portraying the not only the attitude, but just how oppression operates and how these authoritarians operate, that they are not portraying them as so evil and so gross looking, and the actions that they do is just so evil and distinctly gross. Henson does a great job of like drawing a line in the sand on like the killing and the genocide, not okay. The Skeksis, they're bad. Everything about them, they're not okay. The only time that this the Gelfling killing is fully ended and the destruction of the Podlings is ended is when the peace, when things come together fully and there's like just true peace, but a full destruction of the current system. And so I think this is a really fantastic movie that outlines the very serious topic of genocide. And I think Henson did a very good job at like portraying the severity and scale of which that affects people.
Fantasy is and has always been a good genre for that sort of exploration of good over evil and sort of like the weak sort of being able to triumph over the strong and powerful. And I think it's definitely intentional in the designs of like the Skeksis and like these beetle creatures. And it's like it is this sort of like grotesqueness about them. It is just sort of like an unabashed like they're like monstrification of these like aristocratic figures who just like don't care how much they loot and pillage and enslave. And so I think it's an excellent point that because Henson, when he goes hard on like commentary and when he goes hard on like the allegory of it, it really shines through. And I think Dark Crystal's probably the biggest and most overt example of that kind of storytelling that Henson does. Um, it's like a kind of Sesame Street is like a kind of actions, like speaking louder than words thing. It's the work that Sesame does that shows like how much of a good force it is. But Dark Crystal is definitely like a big, grand, like sort of theater of this depiction of yeah these horrific figures just sort of like taking what they want from the earth and its people and having somebody be able to stand up to them. And yeah, that's why I think it's such a tremendous movie for that, as you said.
I think it's everything. I agree with everything you just said. And like just the specifics of and the way he goes about portraying everything, like the beetle creatures that come and destroy the village. That is so like these creatures, these beetle things are so similar to like a tank. They're so similar to these big destructive tools that oppressive powers in our own world use. And when it tears through the village, that is so on the nose to like how these oppressive forces will come into villages and just do all these things. It's such a clear representation of like the horrible genocidal things that happen in our own world. And I think, as Will pointed out, with Sesame Street being like a very direct, actionable thing to addressing like marginalized communities, oppression, and like structural racism and shit. I think fantasy movies like this, and specifically a Jim Henson fantasy movie of this scale, I think that this was one of Jim Henson's opportunities to make such a big, grand statement, to make something so kind of like overtly political in its nature. And I think part of the reason why it was like controversial, and the reason it like was confusing for audiences, like at the start, why it was like kind of divisive, is because like Jim Henson, before a lot of other fucking people were offering big blockbuster movies about these like big top, like right now we have a Justice League movie out about like the genocide in Gaza. Like this was before all of that shit. Jim Henson was one of the first people to make like a very direct criticism on that kind of authoritarianism. And I think that was why a lot of audience, it was polarizing for a lot of audiences. And I think Jim deserves so much respect, and the whole team around it, for making something this overtly political in the era in which they did.
So our podling party is so rudely crashed by the giant beetle men, very unfortunately.
Boo.
A funny line comes afterwards where Jen's like, "Man, I'm so sorry, Kira. I ruined everything and I got your whole family killed." And Kira was like, "That's okay. It's fine. It was gonna happen anyways." Which probably was not. Jen did kill that entire species. Well, abduct them at least.
This,
So,
this this thing that is definitely your fault and actively as a result of your meddling probably would have happened anyway based on nothing.
I don't
well,
even fucking care about him that much. We're chilling, bro.
so the next scenes we get are the Gartham hiking back to the Crystal Castle with cages full of podlings on their back.
Not good.
Not good at all. Jen and Kira are flying after them, like, "Man, I really wish we could get there faster." They turn around. The land striders, these probably like 15-foot tall cat-like beings with long ass legs. Like, "Oh, we could just take one of those to the castle, right?" So absolutely convenient.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, how are we ever? It's like in a Hallmark romance movie where they're like, how are we ever going to beat the love interest before they get to the freaking airport, and then they leave the small Christmas town forever? Don't worry, we got a taxi right here for you. Get in.
Oh, don't worry, we got the Dark Crystal Landstrider here for you. Hop on.
Hey, it's me, the Dog Crystal Landstriders. You need to get going. I will say, it's like, I'm pretty sure Kira, like two things here. Kira, I'm pretty sure like it's a character trait of hers that she's able to speak to the world. She's able to speak to the Landstriders. She's able to speak to all living creatures. Um, some people would argue that's a super convenient plot element, that she's able to talk to fucking everything, and they don't really indicate how she's able to do that. And like how like a Gelfling, like is it because she's a Gelfling? We don't know. But Kira so conveniently is able to get those Landstriders because they're right there, and she knows how to talk to them. But I will point out about the Landstriders and the whole environment that they're in this forest. They take, and no other Henson project I've seen, and I wish more fantasy movies did this. They take like a 1 minute period where they just scan through the forest, and they give you little creatures and little interactions of what the like little like these creepy little like floor of the forest puppets, and like the Jim Henson really outlines, like even without explaining every single thing, like there's a living breathing ecosystem of this world and all of these creatures. The Landstrider is super convenient, but I really like that in this whole scene with Kira and Jen, and the whole time that they're in the forest, Jim spends so much time just showing off like how each part of like the biodiversity of this place works. And it's a really interesting thing. I appreciate that that's in there.
That
Mhm.
is a point that I wanted to make at some point, is that the world feels so rich because of just these like little cutaways where there are so many just like little little critters, little puppets Just look, it's such like a wonderful showcase of not just the puppetry, not just the creature design, but just like making this feel like such a populated world. And I'm glad that we got to the Landstarters because I think something that stood out to me last time that I watched this movie is how much like visual influence Dark Crystal kind of had on fantasy as a genre going forward, and even on science fiction, because the Landstriders in Dark Crystal really reminded me of a different creature from a different property, that shares the name Striders. They really reminded me in just sort of like a few very like subtle ways of the Striders from the Half-Life games. I don't know if either of you guys have played Half-Life, but I want to say they first show up in Half-Life 2. I could be wrong, but there's these huge like the like giant creatures that like walk on like a few like three legs, and they to me they were very similar to the Landstriders from Dark Crystal. So just like the creature design in this movie was incredibly well done and would undeniably have influence on for not just the dark fantasy genre from this point going forward, but I think fantasy as a genre.
I think this is a good point for all of us. I think this is a good point in the discussion for us to talk about just, yeah, Henson in general, but specifically the Dark Crystal has had so much influence over so much fantasy in the future and so much shit that has come after Dark Crystal. I really think, again, this is a clear example of Henson making something that is polarizing at the time because it's so like weird and quirky, but then lays the groundwork for pretty much everything to come after it.
Shelby, you're a fair. It's fair to say you're a big fan of weird little critters and weird little guys. Do
One could
you?
say.
Oh, it has been argued, the case could be made.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite, just like a little dude from Dark Crystal?
So I was actually rewatching today, and I can't remember. I want to say they're called the Crawlies. During the feast scene where the Skeksis are just gorging,
Yeah.
they're for dessert, they have these tiny little like I want to relate them to soot sprites from Totoro. They're just
Oh.
little tiny balls, and they've got feathers coming off of them. But one scurries across the table before a Skeksis just like grabs it and shoves it in its mouth. And before that, I would have given you the really basic answer of Fizzgig because I love all of those teeth in there. That is so made for me. I love that little dog ball.
Hmm.
But I'm feeling those crawlies if that's what they're called. What about you?
Are they called crawlies because they crawl around the table? Or is that like
I think so. I want to say it's like the equivalent to a little mouse on Thra. They have
hmm.
crawlies instead of cockroaches or mice. So
Well,
cute.
I'd prefer, dude. I see so many rats in the city here. If I saw a little crawly instead, I think it would be chilling.
I see a rat
Will,
right now.
oh, I was gonna ask, like, Will, what's your freaking
Oh,
pick for your favorite little creature in this movie?
man, I gotta say, not technically a creature because they're a sentient race, but I really, really love the design of the podlings. I really just love the way that they're put together. They're so like halfling coded, like hobbit coded.
Yeah.
Like I just love just like they're very soft features. They're very just sort of jolly disposition. I'm a big fan of the podling design, and I like how distinct they are in their design from Gelflings and from Skeksis and from Mystics. Yeah, just absolute joys to behold. Love the podlings.
The podlings for me, like I really love their design and like the fact that they are so like cute and jovial to look at is like makes it even harder to watch when like horrible things happen to them throughout this movie.
Oh yeah,
Just
like the
Hmm.
little
makes
shriveled up ones in the tower as well. Just like
Oh,
makes me
dude, when we get
miserable.
to that scene, I have so much to say about that scene. But my little favorite creature and that happens within this Dark Crystal, there's this scene with the one that we just brought up about the taking of life from the podlings that is done by the scientist Skeksis. that whole room that the scientist Skeksis operates out of is also a menagerie of different creatures that they have stolen throughout the forest. They have little podling babies. They have all of these little creatures that exist throughout the world of the Dark Crystal, and eventually team up and destroy a Skeksis. But there's this one little creature in there. It's like this little fox. It's like this snivelly little fox thing. They don't like they. It's on screen, not much in the movie. It quite literally just looks like a regular ass fox, and I like it. I think it's fun that in this movie of like all these really unique creatures, they have a very basic kind of like this is a regular looking fox over here. I like it.
Why not put a fox in there? They won't notice.
Why not?
Okay, so we're actually just about to get to the scientist scene where we get some podlings sucked the life out of.
Oh.
So, the attack against the Gartham with the Landstriders does not go very well for Jen and Kira. The Landstriders are quickly taken over, and this is when we learn that Kira has wings. Maybe we know this before, but it's kind of just like a, what the fuck are you talking about? She has wings.
You have wings?
Huh?
Well, because
She-
all girls have wings and boys don't have wings.
I was about to say that is the iconic line of the movie.
Truly.
Of course I have like you have wings. Like why don't I have wings? Of course you don't. You're a boy.
So Kira,
Oh my goodness. I love the idea of like Gelfling gender affirming care being like you get back surgery and you get wings. Like
oh my God.
trans femme Gelflings just like getting wing surgery.
I mean, it seems like the Skeksis don't seem to do binary gender shit, but it seems like the Gelflings, you're a boy, Jen. You're not allowed to have this. I don't know,
Oh my
Kira.
God. Not trans medicalist Gelfling.
Trans Kira. But like
Good
Hate to
Lord.
see it.
the way that Shelby brought up that this like she just kind of has wings is exactly how it goes in the movie. They fall off of this cliff after trying to save the podlings, and then it's just like, oh, she has wings. And Jen literally says, you have wings? Like speaking for the audience, like, what? And
Pardon me?
like, pardon me, huh? I love that scene. And also when I saw this movie in theaters, because Dark Crystal was re-released in theaters for the 70th anniversary of the Jim Henson Company, halfway through, or a little more than halfway through my movie, I saw it twice, but the first time I saw it, a popcorn machine caught on fire and they evacuated the entire theater, and so I didn't finish it, and I had to get a ticket for the second day. But but when I watched the Kira scene where she says the "you're a boy" line, the entire theater said "but you're a boy," and they had been silent the whole time. But as soon as that fucking line came on, whole theater, "You're a boy!"
Duh.
Duh.
Oh my God. Incredible. I love it. It's just another one of those moments where it's like the movie is happening to you and you just have to accept it.
Yep.
It's true. Okay, so Kira uses wings and they fly down into the catacombs of the castle. I actually didn't bring up a Chamberlain interaction, which happened right before they went off on the Landstriders, but I figured we would just lump them together right here. They happen pretty frequently and basically they're the same thing.
Well,
Max, you seem passionate. Take it away.
we haven't even
Okay, so
talked about the
basically-
Chamberlain this whole episode for arguably one of the most interesting characters in the movie.
Arguably people's favorite fucking character of the movie. I've seen a lot of people talk about Chamberlain as their favorite. So, after the podling things happen, I can't remember exactly which point if this is. This is obviously before they get to the castle, but I'm not sure if it was before they attacked with the Landstriders and shit and try to get the podlings back.
Right before.
Right before. Lovely. They stumble upon these ruins of old. And of course, Jen, being the dummy that he is like, these are ruins. I don't know. Like, what? What could this be from? I don't know, Jen. What about the whole society that was there before all this shit? Duh. But whatever. Kira is like, I don't know. This place is creepy. We don't go here. And she explains, like, the Skeksis roam around here. And they get into the ruins. And again, very conveniently, the entire fucking prophecy in which Jen this whole time has not understood what the hell he's supposed to do with this crystal. And right before it, he's like, I hate this crystal, and throws it. And Kira, and also they find it immediately again. Him throwing the crystal does not mean anything to the rest of the movie. They get to this ruins, and Kira and Jen learned the entirety of the prophecy about how they have to restore order in the world, how they have to like reunite the shard. And then out of the corner,
excuse me? Yes, please.
Chamberlain Skeksis, stripped of his royal robes, comes out of the corner. And honestly, this is one of my favorite scenes. He's so fucking creepy in this scene, like genuinely kind of terrifying. The way, like when you watch it for the first time, like you don't know if Chamberlain is actually good or not. You'd have no idea if he's being serious and trying to be like, no, please, come with me, please. Fucking Jen, obviously, like is like, maybe we should listen. Kira's like, no. But I love this scene. I think it really outlines how fucking creepy this movie can get, and how like when you watch, like I watched it on the big screen, and I remember when Chamberlain popped out, I was just like, oh, whoa. Like I knew it was happening. I had seen the movie before, but it really fucking jump scared me. Where I was like, whoa! And the way he comes in, just barreling in, he doesn't give them any time to be like, hi, I'm Chamberlain. What's your name? It's just please help me. I need you.
The Chamberlain is such an interesting character because we kind of glossed over it, but like the movie starts with the Emperor of the Gelflings dying, and they immediately start squabbling among each other as to who is going to be the new Emperor of the Skeksis. And the Chamberlain is the one who kind of sees himself fit to take over, but then loses to, I want to say, the General. And the General becomes the new Emperor of the Skeksis. And he is cast out, stripped of like his robes, his like status, all of his possessions, everything, and like sent into exile. And then the next time we see him is gradually over the course of the movie, him sort of like gaining on Jem and Kira, and it's this first scene where they sort of come face to face, and it's something Max said is very interesting as to we don't really actually know what the Chamberlain's intentions are because he's so naturally creepy as we've already known him, and it's so interesting to have that sort of like playing in your head as like, oh, is he actually like deferring against the Skeksis because they basically they stripped him of everything. But something that happens early on in the movie is kind of telling, and it's a note that I made about how I like just the unpleasantness of the Skeksis, but also the way that they mirror a kind of, and I'm not gonna say anything outright, but there is a certain political dynasty that sort of is mirrored in the Skeksis because you've got this emperor that is shriveled away and like basically a husk of a living being and is still like, I will always be the emperor, like still desperately clinging to power. And it's like, you're done, but just absolutely refuses to relinquish power. And so it is that refusal to relinquish that sort of hold over this world that then makes the Chamberlain twist like, oh, that he actually is trying to fucking kill Jem and Kira. He actually is just trying to get back in with the Skeksis. It's so interesting to see just like this unabashedly evil villain because it's at a point where it's like, oh, there could be layers to this guy, but it's like, no, there's not. He's a fucking freak.
I think the layers to the Chamberlain are that like while the other Skeksis are very just like outright with their destruction, they don't really critically think about shit. They're just like, go fling, no, we must destroy, shoving, barreling food into their face, everything. The Chamberlain is quite literally the only Skeksis that is depicted in the movie to like use cunningness, to be able to use manipulation, to use his words to try to convince Jen and Kira versus just like killing them outright or grabbing them because he overpowers Jen and Kira pretty fucking easily. Like he could have just grabbed them and brought them to the thing. But the Chamberlain, unlike all the other Skeksis, And the reason why I think that like it makes sense that he was the one that wanted the throne is because he's the one that's like, I am the smartest fucking one here. I'm manipulative as hell. All these idiots are shoving fucking crawlies in their mouth all day, and I'm here fucking saying articulated sentences about the Gelflings. Like fucking this scene specifically with Chamberlain Skeksis, so creepy. So like the way when they leave the ruin and Kira is like Jen finally listens to Kira after they get cornered for so long, and they're like, no, and he's like, no, we're leaving, get away from me. The Chamberlain watches them leave and goes like, please, 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 in the most like, oh, this dude, like, after that scene where you're not sure if he's like evil or not, and then he does the please, I'm like, oh, that dude is a desperate evil man that is trying to kill them.
And just the performance, the vocal performance is just so harrowing, and it sticks in your mind. Like quite literally, it just like from the second that he's introduced, again, it's another instance of them establishing character really quickly. The second that we are aware of Chamberlain, you really get that sense of like scheming and cunning through literally no dialogue, but through noises, entirely through his like his little, just like his weird little like scheming sound that's so like unpleasant but weirdly just kind of like sticks in your head, and it's just sort of like
One of the biggest
creepy.
takeaways from people in this movie is just how much the Chamberlain goes, like we're not really talking about Age of Resistance in this podcast, but because of how much people like Skek Chamberlain going in the show, they do it like 10 times the amount in the fucking Age of Resistance. They do it so much to the point where in which it seems like they think what made Dark Crystal good was the amount Chamberlain says And I agree with that.
Kinda.
On a scale of 1 to how good is this movie?
Shelby, is there
Mm.
anything particularly that stands out to you about the Chamberlain Skeksis?
I genuinely thought on my first walkthrough that he was good. That I was like, oh, they were kind of mean to him in the little ruins there. They should go back and see what he has to say. Quickly
Dude,
changed my opinion, but
Yeah, you
that's what
kind of threw that back
that's
at
why
us.
that's why this movie is so great on a first watch, because you genuinely don't know, like, is Chamberlain gonna fuck these guys up, or is he actually trying to bring peace to the fucking situation?
truly, I thought it would be a fun point to have like a Skeksis actually on the outside, like willing to help. And
Yeah,
it's very Henson in a way.
Hmm.
my ass the first time I watched this movie was like, oh my god, they're gonna befriend Chamberlain Sky. He's gonna be like, I had seen Labyrinth before I had seen Dark Crystal, so I was like, oh, he's gonna be like Hoggle. He's gonna prove himself. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, oh no, he's no,
Oh
no.
God. Actually,
Yikes.
Ooh, putrid little man. Putrid
So
big man.
we get out of the ruins, we get out of the podling kidnapping. Where are we at now?
we're actually about to go run into our Boothang Chamberlain again, this time in the
Hey!
catacombs.
Oh
Let's go. Because our idiot boy Jen is like, let's go in through the sewer. And Kira's like, I don't want to do that. And ignores her.
You know, this movie would be a lot different if we listened to women. That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Listens to like the one of like the two women in the movie, by the
Yeah.
way.
And they're
The,
both so correct the
No,
whole way
literally.
through.
literally, Agra and Kira are freaking are the only ones who are correct. Jen, okay, here's what I think. The Skeksis are like, there's no gender that is assigned to them. Kira and Agra are women. They're the only ones who are right throughout the whole movie. The only man that we see, like, who's directly a like presented man is Jen, who's a fucking idiot. So what I think this movie is saying that women are right and smart, men are stupid and dumb, and non-binaries are scheming evil freaks.
Oh my God. And thanks
I'm
for having
saying
me
that
on the
as a they
episode.
them.
That's
I'm
the
saying that just as
scale.
a they them, I promise.
That's the gender scale. It's like it's useless, incredibly competent, or mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. No,
Man, women, or
it's the way that if this movie was about Olga and Kira, then it would have been 25 minutes long.
yup, they would have solved that
Literally.
whole fucking thing.
Brought over a nice cake and called it a day.
Literally.
Exactly.
So we meet the Chamberlain back in the catacombs, and once again, they're like, come on, come with me. I'm a good guy, come on. And Kira again is like, no, that's fucking stupid, and fuck you, pretty much. Stabs him in the hand. The Chamberlain's like, what the actual fuck?
Bro, what the hell?
Yeah. Buries Jen underground, takes Kira away, gift to the Emperor.
Can I
Creepy.
say real quick about this scene? This scene, and like I had seen the movie before, but when I'm seeing this on the big screen for the first time, this fucking scene where Kira stabs the Chamberlain and the Chamberlain creeps out of the dark, it terrifying. That was like genuinely one of like the scariest things I've ever seen in a Henson project. Specifically when the Chamberlain gets stabbed and it cuts between his like confused face, the blood seeping out of his arm, and then he just goes, "You hurt me! You die now, Gelfling!" Boom. And it's like this direct, like, oh my God. Because before, you have no idea if the Chamberlain is evil or not. You don't know where he stands. The moment he gets like gets sliced a little by Kira, it's full. You die now. And I remember just being so taken aback at the like intensity of in which the Chamberlain was ready to kill them, the way in which he switched completely and showed that, oh, this is pure manipulation, this is not any trueness. Dude, that scene of the "you Gelfling, you die now" like haunted me when I watched that.
So good.
Fucking chilling.
Yeah, so Kira's taken up as a gift to the Emperor. The Emperor is basically like, fantastic. This is going to be the best life serum we've gotten in a long time. Haul her away, bring her to the scientist, suck it right out of her.
Take her to
Wait,
Sigmar's
is
office.
this before or after the podling take life form scene?
After.
Hmm.
Oh, did we talk about the podling scene?
Ooh.
I think we did, right?
I think, okay, I just wanted to, I think, I don't know if we skimmed over it or not, but there's that scene where the scientist Skeksis takes the taken podlings and hooks them up to the dark crystal, already into the machine that they use to show the reflection off of the dark crystal to steal people's life forms. Also, horribly terrifying scene and outlines all the serious shit I was saying before about like this being a movie about like genocide and shit. One of the most terrifying visuals in the movie is the way that the fucking humanity and the life is physically taken and drained from the podlings. The characters that were just taken scenes ago by the fucking Skeksis and by their whole like oppression mission, that scene is terrifying. I remember watching it for the first time and just being like, Jesus Christ, like Henson fully fucking went there. Watching the baby podling's life get drained from it is actually so goddamn sad to watch. That scene is terrifying. Like I cannot just like talk about how much this movie like does what it does without talking about this scene, because this scene to me is like pure like why this movie is so fucking cool and creepy and does what it does.
I love it so much.
And like what I like is that like I don't know, the whole scene also, even though it's a very creepy and like very serious scene, I like after with the Emperor Chamberlain, I mean the Emperor Skeksis and the scientists having their moment of like, "You fraud, this no work, please no, please no." I like how it's like it takes this very serious scene and then adds like some Skeksis silliness. The Skeksis are never not a little silly when they're on scene. They're on fucking camera.
I just like I I'm at massive risk of sounding like a total boomer here, but like they really don't make movies like this that are like accessible for kids like this anymore. I don't know. I feel like I somewhat benefited from being able to like have movies like this like as like a youngster because I don't know, I kind of feel it builds your sort of, not to say builds your immunity, I guess, but I don't know. It's kind of formative. It's
Well, The kind of argument I make for creepy
Bless you,
things,
Shelby.
bless you, Shelby. The argument that I would make towards creepy things being in children's media or like media that would be consumed by children, Dark Crystal, a lot of kids went to that when it came out. A lot of kids were in the theater when I saw it in the theater. Like, my argument towards creepy things being in children's media is that like the world could be a very traumatic place. The world could be a thing that can be like horrible. And like, I think children deserve the tools to understand their emotions of like why, like feeling scared watching something. It's like, I remember as a kid, I'd watch like the scary episodes of Thomas the Tank Engine, be freaked out. And then as an adult, I look back and I'm like, well, I'm glad that taught me in a very safe environment, just being in front of the TV in my little living room and shit, that like you can experience these emotions of like fear and terror and all of these things. And it's like that will happen in life. You will experience, but and like I think it's a really good ability for children to learn what those emotions are and what they feel like in a safe environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that this is that it's why it's one that's so like nostalgic to people from like our generation, like millennials, and even like the generation after that. No, no, before that rather. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is a film that could stand the test of time as like I would argue, yeah, it's one of those where you need to like feel big feelings and experience like not like I'm not saying it like expose kids to like horror, but it's like
Yeah.
yeah, life is it can be like a scary place sometimes, and I feel like building your nerve with sort of like media that makes you confront like as Max has said, a key like theme of this movie is it being like a depiction of like a ravaged world, a world in which like a horrific genocide has been enacted, and so like showing the real like unpleasantness of that is kind of, I would argue, important. It's not something that it's like, whoa, this is too freaky. And I argue that a lot of like the film industry nowadays, it's like there are kids movies that are not afraid to like have important messages or important things for like kids to learn, or even be like accessible to adults, and so like can amass like adult fandoms and like adult enjoyers. But I don't think that they're necessarily done in the way that the Dark Crystal did them or other dark fantasy movies, because we would be remiss in not mentioning other dark fantasy movies that perhaps either it was influenced by or influenced it or it influenced or just like came out around the same time. Films like The Last Unicorn, which
Never
is
ending story.
the never-ending story, which is like practically similar to Dark Crystal, but The Last Unicorn is an incredible animated dark fantasy movie that came out, I believe, also in the 80s.
I fucking love Glass Unicorn. Incredible movie.
Genuinely fun. It's another one of those like hauntingly beautiful but sort of like weirdly unsettling on occasion movies. The just like even just like the way that they deliver dialogue in that movie is so similar to the way that they do it in Dark Crystal. And I just think dark fantasy as a genre is such like a beautiful like media for for that accessible sort of like terror for accessible terror we'll
Yeah.
call it.
I mean,
And
I think you make an insanely good point, not only with like dark fantasy, but just like I think that what's important about Henson Media specifically and the way that it influenced so many other things and the kind of like shitty juxtaposition of where we're at now and how it's not being done like that anymore. I think Henson really understood that like in all Henson media, whether it's Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, whether it's anything that he did, yes, there's like the allegories of using things to portray something else. I think Henson succeeds in the reason why Henson shit is so timeless is because he just like is very clear with the messaging in terms of like this is a big horrible thing that happens in the world and this is like the thing about it. Sesame Street like is quite literally like marginalize structural racism towards people in this country. This show that I'm going to work on with Joan Ganscooney and shit is going to quite literally like verbatim address these fucking issues. And I think that like that is why Henson and a lot of the influence that happened to in these like dark fantasy things of understanding the importance of portraying certain emotions and saying and like portraying these bigger topics in a way that are like so outright, but also still beautifully abstract. I think Henson kind of was the one who started that wave and was the master at like beautiful things that speak to a very real issue, but do not take away from the beauty, art, the artistry, and the abstractness that come with that.
Nobody
So
does it like Jimmy.
No one doesn't like my boy Jimmy. Jimmy Johns Henson. Come on.
oh my God. So now that it seems like we're now reaching the third act climax. Now that we're at this sort of very tumultuous point, it feels like we're sort of reaching the crescendo of the movie.
Kira has been taken by the Skeksis.
The rumors are true. Kira has been taken up to the scientist's lab, strapped into the chair, when our queen diva Agra from the corner yells, "Hey bitch, you can talk to animals. We have so many of those in here right now."
Hey girl, like you know how you did that earlier with the Landstriders, how they magically appeared? Now you have animals that were established to be here from the start. Talk
Mm-hmm.
The queen
Call those
never
bitches
cry.
in. It's true. Kira's like, "Hey, help me." They all scurry out of their little cages, attack the scientist, unlock her Skeksy handcuffs. Pretty badass, if I do
Pretty
say so
fucking sick.
myself.
And the Skeksis that dies and falls into the fire, that makes one of the mystics that are walking towards the castle disappear. I also want to point out that in that happening, it's a part of the movie that like when they cut to the mystics walking, it's like plot will happen, crazy things like Kira killing a Skeksis will happen, and then it'll just be like, hey, in case you were forgetting, the mystics are still here and they're still walking. This whole like it'll have really important plot elements and just be like, hey guys, the mystics are still coming. I just
On
want
their way.
Yeah.
in
They're
these
they're going on a
gorgeous,
hike, by the way.
yeah, and the mystics also walking on these beautiful hand painted gorgeous backdrops that look straight out of a fucking Ghibli movie. Like I cannot get over how gorgeous the walking scenes are for the mystics.
They
Even
are
though
beautiful.
they could have done so much more than they did, but instead
Yeah,
they just fucking walked
they
and
just
showed
walk.
up at the perfect time, and it's like, hey guys,
What up? It's me, the mystic.
hey, we got Mystic, who up
We're getting
mysticking their
mystic in here.
Skeksis right now.
What misting they gets this?
God. After that mystic is mysticking his Skeksis, Agra frees herself from the cage as well. And Jen, we cut to him down in the rubble, crawls his way out, and he's in the bottom of the cave shaft. Is that what I want to call it? I suppose.
With fucking Fizzwig.
With that little dog ball.
Yeah.
Dog ball's down there. Dog ball's fine. Don't worry about him. Jen starts scaling the wall up to Kira, up to the little hatch where the crystal opens up. And he makes it in pretty much. We're in the final scenes here. This last act moves quick.
It's so
It does.
convenient that Jen just like stumbles upon exactly where the crystal is. You
Mhm.
know, it's kind of like, okay, he gets into the sewer, he gets attacked by Chamberlain. There's where the crystal is. You know exactly where it is. And the only stakes is that it's up high. Like, like,
He's just
Literally.
protagonisting his way through all of the events that happen to him, and honestly, there's nobody doing it like him.
yeah, Jen be doing that.
His plot armor was very well built, I will say.
Iron, like nothing gets past that. But bad
Mm-mm,
stuff happens to people around him, but he'll make it out fine.
Yeah,
Sure,
you'll
why
be
not?
fine.
for sure. So the Gelflings, now reunited up in this scientist's lab, make their way down to the crystal chamber where the Skeksis are getting ready for the conjunction. It's like about to happen. The Mystics are also like getting right there. Skeksis spot some Gelflings up top, call in their beetles, and they think it's the end. Jen jumps, the reenactment, tries to get to the shard into the crystal and drops it.
Dude, I obviously
Motherfucker.
wasn't screaming at the in the theater, but I watched this movie a bunch of times. Every fucking time Jen drops the crystal, I'm like, ah,
Oh my God,
Jen!
you
And then
Gelfling can't do anything.
bro, and it
Literally
takes
nothing.
so long to jump on the damn fucking dark crystal. It's like, bro, it's right there. Why are you waiting for all this shit? Go.
I don't even want to say this next part. Kira, our queen, our diva, our everything. She slides in there and picks up Jen's mistake, as usual.
Yeah.
Lifts it up into the crystal, sticks it in there. And then what happens?
I will remember you. Kira's fucking murked by a Skeksis. Uh,
Absolutely murked.
Fucking tragedy.
our diva Kira hits the ground because of Jen's negligence here. Dead on the ground. This whole scene, I think I described before that I was like that you're screaming at Jen the whole time. I didn't scream in the theater, but I was like, Jen, get that dang shard onto the crystal. In watching this ending scene a lot of times, I've noticed a few things. First of all, I feel like the movie is building up this whole huge fight scene between the Skeksis and the Mystics. The Mystics have been wandering this whole time, and it feels like the buildup of the movie, like the climax will be they meet and battle it out. That is absolutely not what happens. The Mystics just kind of show up, and then the crystal joins, and then they merge. And it's like, okay, all right. I realize the tension and the me being at the edge of my seat and feeling the suspense of the climax of the movie. I was like, okay, it's not coming from the conjunction, clearly, because they don't have this big fight. I realized that the tension you feel is fully comes from Jen's inability to get shit right. It's like the tension comes from you watching, the suspense comes from you watching Jen sit there behind like the thing and you're screaming like, Jen, you don't have any fucking time, the conjunction's about to happen. He drops the crystal, he waits too long to jump onto the thing. It's every moment in it. It's not from the actual conjunction. It's just us, the audience, being like, Jen, you fucking idiot, no, you're gonna ruin everything.
It's one of the only circumstances where the complete and utter incompetence of the protagonist is like genuinely a source of like stress. And yet somehow through no fucking for nothing except a miracle, he stumbles through plot points until he makes it to the closing of the movie.
But a few things about the ending is that, like, I mentioned this, them not having like the big fight scene. Like, I assume the reason they couldn't is because it's like all of these puppets take so much labor and hardness to operate and everything. I feel like they were like, yo, let's just make Jen cause the suspense and not the actual conjunction because it's like, I think it's way easier to have Jen fumble around with the shard than to have those giant puppets like do articulated fight scenes. Like I think they probably played it safe in that regard. And two, I'm trying to think of most like what other movies can you think of that the movie only is solved not because the protagonist like does their job and gets it done. It's because they fuck up like crazy and everyone else helps them out because they keep messing up and then they fumble their way to a victory. That's a very like whether you agree with that, agree with how that goes or not, that's very unique. I feel like to a fucking Henson movie.
There's got to be some kind of movie that ends like that, but nothing comes to mind. Um, I j- I do really
Imagine in Star Wars in the fight between Luke and Darth Vader if it ended because Luke drops his lightsaber and goes like, oh fuck, and somebody like tosses it to him, they die, and then Luke's able to come in with a cheap shot. Like that is how the Dark Crystal ends, basically.
as much as it is like oh damn, the Mystics really just like showed up and just like as like Shelby gesture, we're just like there for the vibes. But I don't know. I think the Mystics and the Skeksis being like such drastic, like so drastically different from each other and yet like kind of symbiotic in their relationship. It's like obviously I think a very sort of easy reading to take from it is the fact that they are like they're obviously two sides of a coin and they come together and they were like originally one being and then they like become one at the end. It's the nature of that sort of like good and evil struggle between like man. Um But the sort of roles that the Skeksis and the Mystics played in this movie, I thought were very interesting. And I have written down, not to paraphrase Max earlier, I'm gonna Lisa Simpson here. And this might be just a completely soup-brained reading of a Dark
Oh,
Crystal. But what was interesting to me about the Skeksis and the Mystics, especially that they are like so interlinked, where like one gets injured, the Chamberlain gets injured, the corresponding Mystic like now has a hand wound. When one of them gets exploded to smithereens, Mystic just like bursts into flame and is gone, and they're all just like, "Damn, sucks." Um, you have to hear me out on this, but it sort of is a little bit reminiscent of, and it's starting to become well, it's not starting to become, it's definitely a thing in England too. But they're kind of reminiscent of the American two-party system. Now, hear me out. Um,
I'm
you're gonna
woken
have
up
to
for this
going
one.
to have to hear me out on this
Yeah.
because the Skeksis are so like intentional and so like overt and so actively damaging. Meanwhile, the Mystics, like they I'm sorry, if they were gonna go all the way to the tower anyways, why did they like send this kid? They're like a force for good for all intents and purposes, but they are inactive in their actual pursuit of getting anything done and waiting around for somebody else to like to spearhead like a positive movement and kind of just like they almost sort of like piggyback on Jem and Kira's like journey and sort of like if they didn't do all the hard work, the Mystics would have just like walked up there and shown up and nothing would have happened. But if they didn't go on that perilous journey, then like there would have been no positive outcome for the Mystics. There would have
It's
been no
like
like the crystal wouldn't have been reunited, the conjunction would have happened, probably some other bad shit would have gone down. But like the fact that the Skeksis are so malicious and the Mystics are so like well-intentioned but like refuse to get involved type thing and kind of sent somebody else on their way to get involved. It's I don't know. I could be completely like
not off base. I
I've
don't
a
think it's off
completely
base at
tinfoil
all.
hatting about this. I just like on my most
No.
recent reading, I was like, damn, that would be crazy. Huge if true.
I
Um,
am twiddling my fingers here because I'm just woke enough. Not even just, I am more than woke enough for this discussion. So the Mystics to me are exactly like what Will said, inactive. They I would agree, probably representative of the Democratic Party. The way that the Democrats like did nothing for queer people for years and then let like trans activists in the streets die, get beat by police, and do all of the dirty work just for them to come in an election year that they needed to desperately win to go like, actually, we fucking white gay marriage. It's like the inaction. And I agree with you that it's like, even if this isn't exactly about the American two-party system, I think it is representative of that, like, the situations that affect oppressed people, the way that the podlings are experiencing the oppression of the Skeksis, and that there seems to be no end, and all these things happening, and then the mystics are just off knowing that this is happening and like just waiting for their moment to finally like this has to be this perfect thing, this perfect moment while all this other bad shit is happening. I would say I think it's a pretty good analysis on like how powerful people on both sides of the coin, when people are facing mass oppression, will not act and wait for the people who have been oppressed the most, i.e., the Gelflings in this situation who have experienced the literal genocide against their people. They're the ones that have to fucking go and do the dirty work to get it done before the other I think that I think I agree with Will that I think it's smart that we're not outlining the Skeksis and the Mystics as just pure good versus evil, and that it's like this people are 100% good, this people are 100% bad. I think you can run into that a lot in dark fantasy, and a lot of just like I think Henson is smart in being like, yeah, the Skeksis are horrible and we do all of these things where we portray them as like these disgustingly bad. But then the Mystics, there also is so many scenes in this movie where you see them thriving and see them having their like peaceful ass existence while all of this horrible destruction is going on, and then just being able to be like, well, the prophecy says we need a Gelfling to do it, bro. And the Gelfling's got to do it at some point, and we can't even address any of this when they have as much power physically and the same. They have the same emotion. They have as much power as the Skeksis, and I just think that I would agree. I am more than woke enough to agree that this movie is an allegory for a lot of things. It's an allegory for genocide. It's an allegory for authoritarianism. It's an allegory for a lot. And I venture into arguing that there's allegories within this on how inaction and how kind of like organized how do I say this? The way in which political operatives don't actually act on the things that they talk about, but then run on like slightly progressive things so they can keep pulling in and being the better thing than the other option, but not offering like true solvency to the issues. I don't know where we're going with Dark Crystal in any direction, but I think there's allegories for a lot of different political things in here.
I'm not even saying it was actively intentional. I would go so far as to say that I don't know if that was 100% an intended reading of it. I just think that like, the puzzle pieces came together in my brain. I'm not giving it like all of the credit and saying this is absolutely 100% what it's about, but I'm also saying that there's no way that it can't and not even a little bit be about that.
You can interpret art however you want, bruh.
Yeah, I've watched it, therefore it's mine now, and I can say exactly what it is and what it isn't.
I mean, it's like I'm not going to mince words with my interpretation of what I think this movie is. I think it's a movie about genocide and about authoritarian oppression, specifically in the this is a genocide movie. Like, and I think this is a very well done. I think there's so much more in this movie that it does in fantasy and everything, but I think that is the through line that I feel the most out of this. But aside from that, and like I agree with Will's analysis here, and I appreciate him putting on the Lisa Simpson hat instead of me for a second there, is that we're kind of at the end of this movie. I talked about there's no fight scene. That doesn't actually take away from the movie. I'm not like acting like that is like a thing that, no fight scene doesn't make me not like the movie. But we get to the end here. Kira is fucking dead, bro. She's dead as disco. And Jen, he solves the crystal, but he's just holding her and he's just like, oh fuck, like I solved the world crisis, but I lost Kira.
And the Mystics are like, you did it. That was great. And he's like, fuck you guys. First of all, I'm here with my dead girlfriend, question mark. And like, you're just talking about, oh, you saved the world. You did it. You did what we asked you. Fuck all of you. Could you provide assistance? Do something all movie.
Also, the Mystics, I feel like they totally knew the whole prophecy and the story behind what happened to them and shit. Why didn't they tell Jen? Why did it take him conveniently running into Kira to fucking figure this thing out and then conveniently running into the ruins? Like,
for sure.
Fucking loser.
But Shelby, I'm confused. Where are we? Is Kira's dead, but what happens next?
So the Mystics, they take the beam of light coming from the crystal and they use it to recombine the Uru and the Skeksis. The Urskeks are back, bitches. Better than ever.
We are so fucking back.
Let's go!
Us being the Urskeks.
And the end of this movie brings me to my first discussion question for you guys. It's a little bit of a silly, goofy one, if you'll indulge me.
Please.
One of the Mystics, or one of the Urskeks, I believe, is called the Carpenter. Which character do you think would make the best pop star? The Sabrina Carpenter of the Urskeks, if you will.
So it has to be a Skeksis. I think my two picks here right off the bat are ones we've already discussed in spades within this episode. So of course, we've talked about the fucking gay Skeksis and the Chamberlain. And Chamberlain's probably pretty gay too. He said, like, come on. I would say the Chamberlain. Honestly, I would. I think he is the one with the most cunningness to them. That I feel like you put him in enough nice clothes, you get the ornamentalist to like really get him tight and some shit. I think that fucking Chamberlain is the only one of them that has what it takes to be a pop star. Do I think any of them else could be stars in some right? Do I think General Skeksis has a career as like a Republican fucking like country singer? Probably. But I think Chamberlain is probably going to be the next Skeksis Carpenter.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so in this, does that specifically have to be a Skeksis or can it be
No,
any character in
no.
the Dark? Okay,
Oh fuck!
thank
Open world.
fucking God for that because my God. You know, Max, I'm actually gonna go up against you on this one. I'm gonna say that the Chamberlain Skeksis probably has the presence in the pop world that Benson Boone does. Um, that's sorry, that's my fucking op. Who do I think would make the best pop star out of all of them? Cheap shot, but it's gotta be Kira. Like she has got the fucking pipes for it, clearly. She like sings to the animals multiple, well, not like sings, but like
She sings.
I mean, it can be classed as a kind of singing. She's got like a good vocal range. I don't know. I think she's got the charisma for it. I think she'd be like the people's princess type pop star. Like who's it should be like your Chapel Rowan or like your Pink Panthers or someone like
Oh.
that. That's just like our diva. She is everything to us.
She was giving Aurora to me.
Yeah, she's not like one of those like unattainable like pop stars like your Taylor Swifts or like your like Beyonce's or anything like that. She's like she's a person. She's a human being.
Well,
Like
Kira's like the only baddie in this fucking movie. Like genuinely, she's the only like actual baddie in this movie.
I think she's doing it and I want to see Chamberlain Skeksis attempt a backflip also.
Max, Ube is beating you up right now
Yeah.
because Kira's not the only baddie in this movie. You're forgetting all about Lady Agra.
Agra,
Ogura, this
you're so
diva, mature
right.
woman, mind you.
Absolutely crazy. That's my diva. That's my pop star.
That
Giving
that's a
Lady
good pick to be
Gaga.
fair. She'd be because she's been around the block. She'd have stories to tell in
Around,
her
man.
music.
Meat dress on the
Exactly.
red carpet.
Oh my
We
God.
got her at the VMAs covered in blood hanging from the ceiling.
That was not the
Serving.
image that I could. Lady or Gaga.
Yeah, Lady Agra.
Oh my God.
Holy
That's
shit.
that's conjured an image that's generating many different feelings in my mind. Um I can't follow you on it though. That's a that's a fantastic pick.
What? Oh,
There's
I thought
I
you were gonna say you weren't with me. You weren't seeing the vision.
No, I'm with you. I can't fault you on it. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
no, I'm right there with
I'm
Good.
you.
riding this train with you. I paid for a first class ticket for this train. I'm on there.
Choo choo. I can't wait for Agra's art pop era.
Oh my
Yay!
goodness. Yeah, I can't
Agra
wait for her to
bedroom
do
pop.
like the music for like Wednesday season 2 or something. I don't know. Oh, the Age of Resistance season 2 also on Netflix. Um
Promo.
See,
Promo.
I like that little silly discussion question. Thank you, Shelby.
Of
As we kind
course.
of get like to the end, we got to the end of this movie here. We had the Grand Conjunction happen. They come together. Kira, we should mention, everyone's left on this cliffhanger of Kira fucking dying. She's not dead. Kira fucking lives conveniently. She survives. They do all this
They like
stakes.
magic revive her, I think.
What do you say?
They like magic revive her. They like shoot her
Yeah,
with a
the
laser beam
fucking
of "You're not dead anymore," and she comes back to life.
it kind of comes off like the fucking conjoined Skeksis and Mystics. They were just kind of like, hey man, this is your reward basically. Like, hey,
Yeah,
you man, you can have that.
appreciate you. There you
And then
go.
the movie just kind of ends. And I as we've kind of gotten to the end of this here, I just my final kind of like wrap up thoughts on like the entire movie itself is that I fucking love the Dark Crystal. Holy shit. I love this movie so much. Like before I had watched this in theaters, I had honestly been one of those people that didn't really get it too much. I had watched it in like when I was really, really little and then in like high school and I was like, it's whatever. I have become so so dark crystal pilled. I think the set design in this movie is unmatched by like anything Henson did. The practical effects throughout the puppetry work is arguably Jim Henson's magnum opus. The Skeksis, how they're operated, everything is just so fucking well done. I love Dark Crystal. Obviously, there's the things we joked about through this whole thing about
Yeah.
convenient plot elements. There's a lot of those about Jen's characterization just being a fucking idiot. All of these things. Like, there's a lot within this movie that we have joked about. But when I actually sit down and think about the Dark Crystal in its entirety, I think it is one of the best things Henson ever made. The fact that he took such a bold step in a different direction, not only in terms of like tone and set design and the way he went about like the practical puppetry, but the stories and the like things that he was focusing on to talk about, the like messaging that he was trying to get across. It really felt like Henson not only had so much to say with this movie, but it felt so beyond just like we've called it this like Jim Henson's being a little weird and this is like his little freak movie. But it's like I think this movie is so beyond just being Jim Henson's little silly like magical side project. It's very much this thing, a labor of love with so much thought into every aspect of the universe. It is seeping with lore in every part of the movie. It feels people can disagree whether or not with how much they love Dark Crystal, but I think there's nothing you can deny from this movie about how balls to the walls they went with this practical effects, how much passion and how much artistry went into every single ounce of this movie. I think Dark Crystal, there is argument that it's Henson's best project. I am in the camp that I think it is one of the best things Henson ever made. I think it is so beautifully done. I think everyone involved worked their fucking ass off and created something that is timeless completely, so different than anything else Henson ever created, and so different than anything we're ever going to get again. So that is my personal little summarized thoughts for my thing for the end of the movie. I love it. I love Dark Crystal. How do you guys feel about it?
Woo! Big crystal
Beautiful.
head over here, obviously.
I was gonna say big. We got some big crystal heads amongst us. Um, I'm well aware that me and Max have yapped quite a bit. Shelby, why don't you talk to us because obviously you have led us on this journey from beginning to end of Dark Crystal, and obviously we have brought you here specifically to talk about Dark Crystal. What does Dark Crystal mean to you? What does it bring to your life?
This might be more surface level of an answer than you would like from me, but the first couple of watch throughs, I had no idea what was going on because this movie is Coco Melon to me. This movie is like, oh my fucking God, did you see that puppet? Like they're in there. That must be the head and the arm and the wow, the way that that just drapes off of there, like so beautiful. I have no idea what's going on. Literally took me like reading the wiki, like really sitting down, like focus, Shelby. What is happening in this movie to figure it out? Like something
Honestly,
about a Skeksis, the size of it, the sheer size.
well, honestly, because like obviously from the perspective that you bring as like a puppet maker and as like somebody who's very crafty, like it is honestly just like baby sensory for like practical effects.
Truly, truly. Like, oh my God, it's crumbling. Oh my God, only one take? Oh, they could never do this again. I'm like giggling my little head off.
But
I think this
honestly, that's
movie
that's like a really beautiful take on it because it is, as Max said, it's a beautiful testament to just how like handcrafted it is. Like like obviously you can tell when computer effects are used because it was the 80s and you can definitely tell when computer effects are used.
Ah,
But
no, please. Ah.
ooh, it was just like, yeah, it's such just like a beautiful, handcrafted, just incredible piece. I think it was an incredibly pivotal point in Jim's career because going back to like the obviously the nature of it being made was that he got to sort of like make this opus that he'd been working on since the 70s. He made it in London in Elstree Studios. And it was while making this movie and Great Muppet Caper in London that he would meet George Lucas while working in the same studio because Star Wars was working on in the same studio, and they would later collaborate on Labyrinth. And so it was really just a springboard for him, like trying moving away from like strictly Muppet stuff and going and delving more into the nature of like these sort of like like creatures that he was now sort of adding to his repertoire. And he would end up getting a house in London, and well, that would inspire more Muppet projects. And it was just like such an incredibly important piece of like Jim Henson's story as like a creative. But again, obviously when we talk about Henson Media, we like to talk about Jim a lot because obviously he brought a lot to it. But it's the nature of how collaborative a piece this was. Like the amount of people that had to come together to make this happen. Even not even just like puppeteers and like crafters and stuff, but writers and like people to help sharpen the story. And just yeah, what a just a an
We
absolute
haven't
marvel of creative collaboration.
we haven't said the name Brian Froud once in this episode.
I said
Uh,
it once at the very
I was gonna
beginning,
say
and
we
I
got
was just about to say, like, we have not said that name nearly enough. This is his movie just as much of it as it's Jim's to me.
mm.
Like, those original sketches, like, that was Thra. It was already conceived to an extent.
Shelby, can you give the audience who is Brian Froud really? I know we mentioned him briefly at the start, but who really is fucking Brian Froud?
Yeah, so Brian Froud is like an artist who essentially conceived the Skeksis down to every detail.
Mm.
Like the wrinkles under the eyes are there in the original Skeksis drawings. Jim saw them and was like, that is for me. Holy shit, that is for me. We're making a goddamn movie. And the rest was history. My favorite fact about them is that driving away from the premiere, it was the two of them in the back of the car, and Jim is just like staring down. And he goes, what are we doing next? Like, I can't even enjoy this. Like, we need to cook something right now.
Holy, that speaks volumes to Jim Henson's just like feeling like he's always running out of time and always needing to do stuff. I think Brian Froud does not get enough credit for quite literally being the one who came up with the concept of this. Obviously, Jim Henson had written the idea of the crystal, but it wasn't until Brian Froud's artwork had entered Jim Henson's vicinity that he was able to do any of this shit. Also, Brian Froud would later work on Labyrinth with Jim Henson as well. You know, Brian became pretty much like synonymous in his idea behind his Brian Froud's interpretation of a Jim Henson creature became synonymous on what a Henson creature is. And I don't think Henson creatures can get credit for what they are without crediting Brian Froud. There's so many people within the whole Muppet lore that contributed so greatly that don't get enough credit. Like Brian Froud is right there up with people like Faz Vazakis to me, like people who were integral to the inner workings of making these productions happen in the first place, but often didn't get like the same love that they deserve. And I also want to quickly jump back to what Will was talking about like Henson meeting George Lucas in London during the filming of Dark Crystal and how kind of like how cool of a moment that is. I also think that is a very kind of a beautiful representation of how Jim Henson, specifically the Dark Crystal, had such a huge impact on Henson's career and the lives of so many other people. If Henson had not been filming Dark Crystal there and meeting George Lucas, the influence on how the creatures within the Star Wars universe, that shit would never have gotten to the place it was if Henson and Lucas had never met. And that wouldn't have happened if Dark Crystal wasn't going to be fucking made. And the confidence that Jim has, because we need to remember here, Dark Crystal was not a financial success when it came out. It kind of was a flop in some degree. It's become a cult classic nowadays, but it is definitely considered a flop at the time. And the fact that Henson meeting George Lucas, who he would collaborate with on Labyrinth, and Brian Froud, who he did originally with Dark Crystal and would do Labyrinth with later, it is a seminal moment in Jim Henson's career and the careers of all these other people like Froud and Lucas and stuff, because Jim Henson, even with this thing being a flop, even with all of that riding on it and it being only financially able to happen because of Caper, Henson did not give up, and the way that he took Brian Froud, as Shelby said right after the premiere, was like, we gotta cook something new with his Henson, with his fucking Lucas connection, like his George Lucas connection he made at Elstree, and from what they learned from Dark Crystal, and from the desire that Henson had to explore more dark fantasy in a universe like this, they were able to do Labyrinth at all, which I think is fucking insane. That all of this is so interconnected, and I think Dark Crystal really is the precipice for so much Henson shit. And it also indicated an era of like Henson kind of being forced to do more Muppet stuff when he didn't really want to. He wanted to work on dark fantasy. And Labyrinth only came about because he was able to do more Muppet shit before that and was able to justify another dark fantasy movie.
Well, we have gone from beginning to very end with The Dark Crystal, an absolutely incredible film that I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to dissect piece by piece by piece by piece by piece with two incredibly wonderful co-hosts this time around. I think that we have got just about as much as we can out of this movie, and so I am willing to say that this is a beautiful endpoint for us.
I
Absolutely.
think we gelflinged our Skeksis enough today.
Yeah, to put it incredibly beautifully poetically, we did indeed Gelfling our Skeksis to the absolute max.
Oh God, that's so haunting.
And it's gonna be in your ears and in your mind from now on. If you made it all the way to the end of the podcast, that is your incredibly unfortunate reward.
It's your
Thank
vocal
you.
trick from now on, y'all.
Take this with you everywhere you go. And before we say our final goodbyes, Max and I kind of want to put across a bit of a sentiment to you because we've obviously been doing the podcast for a fair few weeks now, and we are quite taken aback by the response from you guys that has come in the wake of it.
Oh my God, yeah. It's been kind of fucking crazy. I so did like obviously I am very grateful. I think this is such an incredible thing that so many people are taking time out of their day, out of their week to freaking listen to our silly little Muppet podcast. Like it is been an overwhelming feeling watching people engage with this. To have any people that want to tune in is just incredible. But like oh my God, it's been like freaking me out, like shocking me at the level in which people are making art and commenting on specific things that happen in the podcast and engaging in this like little community. I'm so grateful and I really appreciate you all tuning in. And like getting to do this has been such an incredible creative treat. And I look forward to all of the episodes that we're going to be doing. And I just can't wait.
Me too. It's just this was something that I was just really excited to do. Whether it like was a hit with people or whether it crashed and burned, it was just something that I wanted to do with my pal. And the fact that so many people have reached out to let us know that they've listened to the episodes and like messaged us about specific stuff to do with episodes and just like even just like going and like dropping a like on like our YouTube video or just like we get like ratings on the Spotify channel as well. It's just genuinely been such an insane experience to have you guys positively interacting with it in the way that you have, as Max said, with even which is nice things to say, but like people have done like fan art of not only our little Muppet dudes, but also of like apocalypse like Apocalypse teams. Just
Yeah.
an utterly ridiculous thing to like accept is real. And just thank you so much. Even if you're like just one of our pals that we kind of like begged you to listen to the podcast, like Shelby. Um, just
Love
like
it.
it just yeah, the fact that you rock with this, it just means a lot to us.
Fuck with us? Like you guys fuck with us? Like come on.
Oh my God,
Um,
you think I'm
crazy,
you
and
think I'm
I'm
silly?
happy. What? I'm happy Will brought up Shelby in this because this pod, not just the podcast, but this Muppet community that we have, this incredible thing that we have going, where we have so many cool people doing things within this. Like Will and I have started doing this podcast, but I am so happy that we had Shelby on this episode because Shelby is somebody who does so much for the Muppet community. Like, I really do think Shelby has pulled us all together in such an incredible way. If Shelby wants to talk about the Weirdpuppetgirl live streams and the weirdlings and such, I just want to give Shelby so much like credit within the community for like everything that she does here. And like the fact that we're able to do this podcast and feel confident and stuff is because we have friends like Shelby who have so much wonderful stuff that they put out and inspire us to make our own creative things.
Thanks, Max. I'm emo now. Oh my God. Well, my whole thing, I started this account just like making a Kermit in my back room, like wasn't expecting to talk to anybody about it. But then it quickly changed into like, oh my God, everybody is so cool. How do I build like the most tight-knit community of weirdos I possibly can? And murder mystery, I've found, brings a lot of people together. And a cheesy little game show. Everyone loves a little game. So basically, on my page, I'm building shit and making friends. And that's all I'm really looking to do. So come do those things and be weird and be loud about it because life is really boring when you're too quiet. And I
Hmm.
used to be too quiet, and look at us now.
Yeah, dude, fuck being quiet. I want to like do Muppet shit all the time. And I do now. I just do Muppet things. And this community's great. Like, this community is so wonderful. And like Shelby brought up the murder mysteries and things like that. I don't know
So
when the next
fun.
live stream is, but please, please go follow Weird Puppet Girl on Instagram and Twitch because Shelby is always doing things like murder mysteries and game nights and all of these things. And they seem to have something exciting in the works.
Something very exciting in the works. I believe this will be announced by the time this podcast comes out, but if it's not announced, this will be a special little leak for the Muppet Momenters who made it to what, hour 3.5 with us here? Maybe
Yeah.
three and some change? Joe, Muppetology, and I are cooking up a little award show for this year for the Muppet Graham community. It's going to be called the Muppet Grammys.
Oh my God.
Nominations will be dropping soon. I believe we're going to do 10 to 12 categories. We'll have some presenters for everybody. Best fan artist, most aesthetic account. Puppet of the year is going to be the big name ticket. Like, whose little diva do we love the most? So I'm super excited about that because that's just like the ultimate way to get everyone together and make people talk to each other and see friendships form. Makes me so happy. And I love you guys. I love our little friend group so much. We've got our own little utopia here. Makes me happy.
We fucking love you, Shelby. Like, like, you are an incredible guest to have on here. And you're also just like a friend that we really appreciate. And like, I please everyone tune into the Muppet Grammys because like, that'll be a great excuse to just get together. I know for what I'm doing for the live stream is I never wear a tux because like gender reasons,
Oh
whatever,
my
but I might rent a tux and I might get some like fancy ass wine and I'm just gonna
Yes.
like treat it like I'm actually at an award show, like chopping it up with all these famous people being puppet builders and weirdos. So I'm really excited, and I thank you for Shelby for freaking hosting that, and Joe Muppetology for Vanna waiting it as always.
Yes, Muppet Podcast will be a category, so I expect a strong campaign to come from the Muppet Momenters.
Vote
We will
Muppet Moment for Muppet Podcast of the Year, people.
We're going to be sending
Mhm.
out for your consideration cheesecakes to all of the Academy voters.
Little
We're not above bribery. We're not above like extortion and racketeering
Oh
also
yeah,
possibly.
we have
We'll do
agreed
whatever
that
it
a
takes to win that
celebrity
fucking
is
Muppet Grammy.
We've all agreed that here at Muppet Podcast, a Muppet Moment podcast, Will and I have agreed that a celebrity is not people. And because we, being the quote unquote celebrity in this scenario, we don't need to use morals in this scenario. We will cheat, lie, we will scheme, we will extort the people voting. It'll be a great time and we will win. Oh, we'll ensure it.
I
No,
absolutely cannot wait.
for it's
And I
such
want to quickly say another plug of Shelby here is that go on Etsy. I mean, is it Etsy?
My Depop, I have weirdlings. These are my
weirdly.
weird little puppet guys that I've been making.
Oh, I
Say
love them
hello, hello.
so
My
bad. They're
weird link's in the
so
other
good.
room.
They're
Hmm.
so good.
Mmm.
Hmm. But yes, I
Shelby,
make these different shapes and colors and bring some weird to your life.
go buy one for audio listeners. It's a very, very cute puppet, and you should buy it. Go on Weird Puppet Girl Depop and buy that right now.
Oh my goodness. That is such an exciting thing to be a part of in the future. And those are such wonderful little guys. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being a feature in today's episode, Shelby.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys deserve all the praise you're receiving.
Ugh, you shush.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, you're buttering us up.
I
Um,
just love this community. This community in all aspects, all Muppet community shit just makes me so happy. And I feel very grateful that this last year and then here being in my I'm about to hit my mid 20s, has been kind of shaped by doing cool, fun things with these amazing nerds. And I love it so much. And it's just I'm really happy. I love this Muppet community.
I could not agree more. So we will thank you, Shelby, for stopping on by. And thank you to everybody who came by to listen to another episode of A Muppet Moment. Thank you so, so much. And we are now marking at this point the end of just our sort of normal whatever episodes as we prepare to move into the festive season. We have got a number of festive specials coming with some very fun special guests that we can't wait to bring to all of you. So we will say goodbye, and we will see you merrily next time on A Muppet Moment.
I'm very excited. I cannot wait. I love Muppet Christmas stuff. It's like my favorite thing to talk about. I've been waiting all year to finally get to dig my teeth into Muppet Christmas media. We have amazing special guests, as Will described. And I just, well, the whole rest of the year, we're going to talk about all things Henson. So far, we've talked about fucking everything from Rob Lake to Dark Crystal. So we are going to set a little bit of time aside here for the next month, December, to just sit back and get a little cozy and get a little bit, get a little Christmas cozy here on A Muppet Moment. And I'm very excited.
It's going to be so very
Merry
magical.
Christmas.
Bye bye,
Merry Christmas.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks for tuning
everyone.
in.
Adios.